woven with gold, beads, and ritual markings, each braid a language of status, lineage, and intent. When she walked, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. And when she ruled, things changed. Under Akasha and Enkill, Kemet began to cleanse itself. Cannibalism was outlawed. Blood sorcery was dismantled. The old shadow priesthoods were dragged into the light. And civilization makes enemies along its way. Enter the witch sisters. Among those enemies were two ancient sisters, Maharet and Makari. Now their mother had been a very powerful witch, one of the old order, and when she died, the sisters followed their ancestral rites, preparing to consume her body, her brain, her flesh, in order to absorb her knowledge and power. To them, this was sacred. This was lineage. To Akasha, this was barbarism, and this was a crime. They were arrested, not gently, and they were beaten, dragged before the queen. And Akasha did not show them mercy. She humiliated them publicly. She had them punished, scarred, and cast down, not as witches, but simply as criminals themselves. Now, this was not cruelty. This was policy, and the sisters never forgave her for that. The summoning of Amil. Now, Maharet and Makari retreated into exile, into the old places where these new laws did not reach them. And there, in rage and humiliation, they summoned Amil. Not a god, not a demon in the Christian sense, a blood spirit, ancient, feral, drawn to death, thriving in the cracks between life and decay. They did not ask Amil to kill Akasha. They asked him to torment her, to haunt her days, to fracture her sleep, to make her doubt her own mind. And Amil agreed. And the harassment began. Akasha began to suffer. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Voices whispered without mouths. Objects shifted. Blood dreams plagued her sleep. And she knew what this was. An attempt at possession. A fight for her soul. And she resisted it. She resisted the spirit with her will alone, refusing to allow it to claim her. But Amil was ancient, powerful, and patient. And so he lingered. He fed on his proximity to her. The waiting was his gift. And then came the assassination. Again, civilization makes many enemies, and she had her share. And one day came the blades. An assassination attempt, political, coordinated, inevitable. Enkill was struck first. Akasha was then stabbed. As her blood spilled onto the stone, her body began to fail, and thus her soul rose. And that is the moment that everything broke. As Akasha crossed the threshold of death, Amil followed her, and this spirit latched onto her departing soul, not out of love, not out of design, but out of instinct, that of a predator. And when Akasha's soul tried to leave her body, Amil pulled it back in. They fell together, the spirit and the queen, back into the flesh. Her heart restarted, her wounds sealed, her blood changed, and Akasha awoke. Not alive, not dead, but bound. The first vampire queen. She arose as something new. Her senses shattered their limits. Her hunger was no longer her own. Her blood burned with foreign will. Amil was now fused to her, feeding through her, whispering through instinct, bound permanently for all time. Akasha had not chosen immortality. She had simply been denied death. The turning of Enkill. Enkill lay there dying, and Akasha refused to lose him. So she fed him her blood. And then Enkill died. and then horrifically he rose. And in that moment, vampirism was born, not from ambition, but from love and refusal to endure loss. The judgment on the witches. Akasha and Enkill hunted the sisters, sparing no expense. Maharet was found, and she was spared, but mutilated. Her eyes were destroyed, and she was cast into an endless exile. Makari was driven mad, sent wandering, carrying the seed of legacy in her, her survival ensuring the truth would never fully die. The old magic was not destroyed, but it was scattered. The martyrdom. Akasha did not seek godhood. She paid for reform with her eternity. She paid for civilization itself with her soul. She became the mother of monsters against her will, bound forever to a parasite born of ancient cruelty and modern resistance. She was not evil by origin. She is what happens when a woman stands between the old world and the future demands blood. Akasha of Kemet, the queen who did not die. Now this story takes place in ancient Kemet, in an age before history had hardened to dates, an age where empires were still learning what they were, learning their power. Kemet was rising, pulling itself away from the older, darker traditions, blood rites, ancestral consumption, magic fed by death rather than memory. At the heart of this transformation stood a woman from beyond its borders, Akasha. She was not born of Kemet. She came from the lands of Sumer, Mesopotamia, where the first cities were built, where queens were not ornaments but institutions themselves. When she was wed to Enkill, the king of Kemet, the marriage was political, but the power she brought was real. Akasha did not rule from behind the throne. She was the throne's spine. Known as the queen of beauty and order, Akasha was spoken of as a devastating beauty, not a fragile beauty, not a decorative beauty, but a regal beauty. Her skin was dark and luminous, kissed by the sun of the south. Her body bore the symmetry of deliberate design. Her hair was worn in intricate braids, woven with gold, beads, and ritual markings, each braid a language of status, lineage, and intent. When she walked, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. And when she ruled, things changed. Under Akasha and Enkill, Kemet began to cleanse itself. Cannibalism was outlawed. Blood sorcery was dismantled. The old shadow priesthoods were dragged into the light. And civilization mixed enemies along its way. Enter the witch sisters. Among those enemies were two ancient sisters, Maharet and Makari. Now their mother had been a very powerful witch, one of the old order, and when she died, the sisters followed their ancestral rites, preparing to consume her body, her brain, her flesh, in order to absorb her knowledge and power. To them, this was sacred. This was lineage. To Akasha, this was barbarism, and this was a crime. They were arrested, not gently, and they were beaten, dragged before the queen. And Akasha did not show them mercy. She humiliated them publicly. She had them punished, scarred, and cast down, not as witches, but simply as criminals themselves. Now this was not cruelty. This was policy, and the sisters never forgave her for that. The summoning of Amil. Now Maharet and Makari retreated into exile, into the old places where these new laws did not reach them. And there, in rage and humiliation, they summoned Amil. Not a god, not a demon in the Christian sense, a blood spirit, ancient, feral, drawn to death, thriving in the cracks between life and decay. They did not ask Amil to kill Akasha. They asked him to torment her, to haunt her days, to fracture her sleep, to make her doubt her own mind. And Emil agreed. And the harassment began. Akasha began to suffer. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Voices whispered without mouths. Objects shifted. Blood dreams plagued her sleep. And she knew what this was. An attempt at possession. A fight for her soul. And she resisted it. She resisted the spirit with her will alone, refusing to allow it to claim her. But Emil was ancient, powerful, and patient. And so he lingered. He fed on his proximity to her. The waiting was his gift. And then came the assassination. Again, civilization makes many enemies, and she had her share. And one day came the blades. An assassination attempt, political, coordinated, inevitable. Enkill was struck first. Akasha was then stabbed. As her blood spilled onto the stone, her body began to fail, and thus her soul rose. And that is the moment that everything broke. As Akasha crossed the threshold of death, Emil followed her, and this spirit latched onto her departing soul, not out of love, not out of design, but out of instinct, that of a predator. And when Akasha's soul tried to leave her body, Emil pulled it back in. They fell together, the spirit and the queen, back into the flesh. Her heart restarted, her wounds sealed, her blood changed, and Akasha awoke. Not alive, not dead, but bound. The first vampire queen. She arose as something new. Her senses shattered their limits. Her hunger was no longer her own. Her blood burned with foreign will. Emil was now fused to her, feeding through her, whispering through instinct, bound permanently for all time. Akasha had not chosen immortality. She had simply been denied death. The turning of Enkill. Enkill lay there dying, and Akasha refused to lose him. So she fed him her blood. And then Enkill died. And then horrifically, he rose. And in that moment, vampirism was born. Not from ambition, but from love and refusal to endure loss. The judgment on the witches. Akasha and Enkill hunted the sisters, sparing no expense. Maharet was found, and she was spared, but mutilated. Her eyes were destroyed, and she was cast into an endless exile. Makari was driven mad, sent wandering, carrying the seed of legacy in her, her survival ensuring the truth would never fully die. The old magic was not destroyed, but it was scattered. The martyrdom. Akasha did not seek godhood. She paid for reform with her eternity. She paid for civilization itself with her soul. She became the mother of monsters against her will, bound forever to a parasite born of ancient cruelty and modern resistance. She was not evil by origin. She is what happens when a woman stands between the old world and the future, and the future demands blood. The myth of Anansi and death. Now, this story comes from the Akan peoples of West Africa, where stories are not merely entertainment, but inheritance, passed from voice to voice, memory to memory, as carefully as names and bloodlines. Now, in this story, it speaks of the beginning, when the world was still simple and its rules had not yet hardened. And there was Anansi, the trickster, who was gifted by knowing many things. He knew how to listen when others spoke too much. He knew how to wait when others rushed forward blindly. He knew how to take a small advantage and turn it into a lasting gain. And this is why he survived. Anansi was not the strongest. He was not the bravest. He did not rule through force or command, but he was clever. and in a world shaped by consequence, cleverness carried weight. He was known by many other names, most notably the Spider, and oftentimes he appeared as a spider, other times as a man, often both at once. He moves between forms as easily as thought between ideas, because he represents the mind itself at work. He is the keeper of stories, the bringer of knowledge, the reminder that intelligence is a form of power. And through Anansi, wisdom is passed not through strength, but through attention. He was a trickster, but never a fool, a survivor, not a coward. Where others confront obstacles directly, Anansi goes around them. While others accept fate, Anansi tests it, gently, patiently, with curiosity sharpened into strategy. And so, in a world that listens to the clever, Anansi endures. The approach of death. Death did not arrive suddenly. It never does. Among the Akan, death is not a shout in the dark, but a quiet shift in the rhythm of living. It moves softly, announced not by noise, but by patterns, by things going slightly out of step. It appeared in the smallest ways, a stiffness in the joints that did not leave with rest, a wariness that lingered longer than it once had, a pause in the breath where there had never been one before. Time itself seemed to change. Days no longer stretched forward with the same generosity. The future felt closer, heavier, as if it had begun to lean inward. Death had entered the space, not as an intruder, but as a presence. And Anansi noticed, as he always did. He watched the signs without fear. He felt the shift without panic. Where others would have prayed or pleaded, Anansi observed. He was measured, he was calculated. Because to Anansi, this too looked like the problem with a shape. And if a thing had a shape, it could be understood. And if it could be understood, Anansi believed it could be solved. The trap. Anansi prepared carefully, not in haste and not in fear. He wove a web unlike any he had made before. Not for insects, not for prey, but for possibility. Each strand was laid out with intention, measured against its silent self. Each knot was reinforced, not by strength, but with patience. This was not a hunter's web. It was a question cast into the shape of a trap. The web shivered faintly in the light, not because it was visible, but because it disturbed something deeper. It caught light the way that thought catches doubt, invisible to all but the most attentive eye. And it waited, already complete, already listening. When death came, it came as it always does, silent, patient, unquestioned. No warning preceded it, no force accompanied it. Death stepped forward, unaware that this space had already been altered, that the pattern it relied on had been interpreted. And then the web closed. Not violently, not suddenly. It gathered death in the way that a pause gathers breath. And for the first time, death was held. Not wounded, not threatened, just stopped. And the world hesitated. Breath lingered where it should have passed. Moments stretched thin as if time itself were waiting for instruction. The final step, the one that always came, failed to arrive. The universe did not break, it paused. And Anansi watched, feeling the stillness ripple outward to the web, watching consequence delay itself. And Anansi smiled. The world without death. At first, the change is subtle. No one notices immediately. A wound closes too slowly. An old man lingers longer than his strength allows. A breath is taken that should have been a last, but yet it isn't. Life continues, but it does not release. The sick do not pass. They remain, suspended between pain and rest. The wounded do not fall quiet. They endure. Grief is delayed, stretched thin, unable to complete itself. Endings hesitate, and nature begins to feel it. Leaves wither but do not fall. Fruit ripens and rots without being cleared away. Rivers swell without emptying fully, pressing against the banks as if unsure where they are allowed to go. The rhythm falters. Predators hunt, but the balance does not reset. Fields grow crowded. The living accumulate space to make room for the next cycle. Life without death becomes heavy, and still the pause continues. Time does not stop, it thickens. Days blur together. Moments refuse to separate cleanly. Stories stretch past their proper endings, turning into noise instead of meaning. Even the sky feels different. The stars still burn, but something about the light feels stalled, as though the long arc of becoming and collapsing has been interrupted. Not extinguished, just waiting. Because even stars in their own time are meant to end. The universe is built on release, and now release has been delayed. And at the center of it all, death remains held. Not struggling, not protesting, simply waiting. And Anansi watches the world bend under the weight of his own continuation. What he has stopped is not cruelty, it is completion. And the longer it is delayed, the more the world begins to strain, not toward chaos, but towards exhaustion. Death waits. Death does not struggle against the web. It does not pull, it does not thrash, it does not demand release. Death simply waits, because death has never needed urgency. From the cosmic view, death understands something that the living have forgotten, that everything that begins is already leaning towards its end. Mountains know this, rivers know this, stars know this, burning for ages only to release themselves back into the darkness one day. Death is not surprised by the delay. Delay is temporary. Duration is not. If death could be said to have a form, it is not sharp or monstrous. It would not be adorned with terror. It would be still. It will be balanced. It will be complete in itself. Beautiful not because of its kind, beautiful because it is final. Terrible not because it is cruel, but because it does not change its mind. Those who sense death do not see a figure. They feel a setting, a certainty, a quiet understanding that nothing here is meant to be held forever. This is what death looks like. And so it waits within Anansi's web, unbothered, untouched by impatience. It does not fear cleverness because cleverness depends on time, and time belongs to death. The web may hold it, but time is already working on the web, and death knows this as well. Anansi's first doubt. At first, Anansi feels satisfaction. The web holds, death remains still, and the world continues. But cleverness is a habit of watching, and Anansi does not stop watching. He notices small things. A woman who should have wept but cannot because the one she waits for has not left. A hunter whose wound never closes enough to heal, yet never opens enough to end. Voices that linger too long in rooms that should have been emptied. Life is still present, but it is crowded. Anansi feels it in the air. The world has grown heavier, thicker, as though it's holding too much breath at once. Movements continue, but without effort. Effort accumulates without release. This is not what is intended. He had imagined silence, perhaps, stillness. A pause that would prove his cleverness was once again sufficient. Instead, he sees strain. Nature falters in ways that cannot be laughed away. Trees remain standing long after they should have fallen, hollowed from within. Creatures grow thin, not from lack of food, but from lack of balance. The rhythm that once reset itself now stumbles forward unevenly. And Anansi watches the sky. The sun rises, the sun sets. But something about this passage feels wrong, as though the world is repeating itself without learning anything new. And for the first time, Anansi hesitates. Not because he fears death, but because he begins to sense what death does. He understands now that death is not the enemy holding the world back. It is the weight keeping the scale level. And by lifting it, Anansi has not freed the world, he has unbalanced it. The web still holds, but Anansi feels something unfamiliar tightening in his chest. Not fear, not guilt, but the awareness that cleverness has limits that it cannot negotiate with. And this is the first time that Anansi wonders whether some problems are not meant to be solved. The release. One day Anansi stood before the web and felt tired. Not defeated, not frightened, just tired. The The web still held. Every strand remained tight, every knot precise. Cleverness had not failed him. The trap was still perfect. But Anansi no longer felt victorious. He stood there longer than he had meant to, studying the web as though seeing it for the first time, not as a triumph but as a weight. The world behind him pressed on, crowded and strained. Life continued, but without ease, without release. And Anansi understood then what death had always known. You cannot outrun time. You cannot trick duration. You can only postpone the moment when cleverness stops working. The realization did not arrive as despair, it arrived as clarity. Anansi reached out. The strand he touched was thin, delicate, almost beautiful in its precision. It resisted slightly under his fingers, humming with tension of everything it had been holding back. But when he cut it, the sound was soft, a single thread giving away, then another. The web does not collapse violently. It loosened, it relaxed, it released itself as though it had been waiting for permission to stop holding the universe in place. And death stepped out freely. Not dramatically, not triumphantly, it simply resumed motion. The air shifted, the pressure lifted. Somewhere far away, a breath completed itself. A story found its ending. The rhythm of the world eased back into alignment. Death did not look angry. If it looked at Anansi at all, it was with recognition, not judgment or even satisfaction, but with certainty. The work had returned, and Anansi knew there was no running now, no weaving to do. The path that had been paused had resumed, and he was already standing on it. So Anansi followed, not drag, not chase. He followed because following was no longer avoidance, it was arrival itself. Each step felt lighter than the last. The world began to loosen its grip. Cleverness fell silent, not defeated, but finished. Where death led, Anansi went, not to punishment and not to reward, but to whatever waits when the story is finally agreed to end. Why Anansi does not win. Anansi does not fail because he's foolish. He failed because cleverness can only delay what patience will eventually reclaim. Death does not need to rush. Death does not need to fight. It only needs time, and time always arrives. Anansi teaches that intelligence is powerful but not infinite. You may delay the end. You may bind it briefly. You may even smile while you're doing it. But the web will loosen, the hands will tire, and death, when released, will not hurry, because it never had to. The myth of Mot and Baal, when death devours the storm. Now, in Canaanite Ugaritic belief systems, Baal is the god of rain and thunder, the pulse of fertile power moving throughout the world. He is not merely worshipped, he is anticipated. When Baal walks the high places, the earth responds. Fields soften beneath his feet, seeds swell in their sleep, the air thickens with promise. When his voice rolls across the sky, clouds gather without command, and rain follows as if it remembers something it had almost forgotten. Life does not just obey Baal, it recognizes him. He is the storm that arrives when the land has waited long enough, the rhythm that turns dust back into soil. Kings praise him not for conquest, but because the people eat when he is near. Baal is abundance made audible. And far below, where no rain ever falls, Mot waits. Mot is the god of death. Not a ruler seated on a throne, not a judge waiting hearts. Mot is consumption. He does not govern the dead. He does not organize them. He does not give them a purpose or rest. He opens his mouth, vast and endless, and the dead pass into him as grain into a mill. In Mot's realm, there is no light, no growth, no becoming. There is only hunger, patience, grinding and eternal. Bones are stripped, names are dissolved, even memory is chewed down to nothing. Death in Mot's keeping is not an ending, it is being eaten. And when Baal's reign grows generous, when life sprouts too far and too freely, Mot's hunger deepens, because abundance always calls to appetite. When Baal establishes his palace, the sky changes. Rain no longer comes in hesitation. It falls freely, generously, as if the heavens themselves have been persuaded to trust the earth again. Thunder rolls not as a warning, but as reassurance, and the land drinks deeply. Crops grow heavy with grain. Vines sag under their own abundance. Rivers swell past their banks, no longer cautious, no longer restrained. And life spreads outward, unchecked, not because Baal demands it, but because nothing stops it. And far below, where no water ever reaches, Mot begins to stir. He feels the weight of growth pressing against the boundaries of the world. He senses abundance piling upon itself, unconsumed, unbroken. Hunger is not emotion for Mot, it is response. Excess must be eaten. Silence must answer noise. From the dry depths beneath the roots of the world, Mot notices rain, and he speaks. Not with anger, not with envy, but in clarity. A message rises from below, not a threat, not a challenge, but a summons older than the argument. Come down, Mot says, descend into my mouth. Let me swallow you as all things are swallowed. And this was no insult. This was not triumph. This was merely inevitability. Baal hears the call and does not laugh. He does not strike the sky with thunder. He does not gather the clouds into weapons. He only understands. Life has grown loud. Life has grown full. And death is now hungry. The descent. And so now Baal descends into the realm of Mot. Not through a gate, not through a door, but through a withholding of the world. The sky above him thins. The air loses weight. The sound of thunder fades. Not suddenly, but as if it were being pulled away, strand by strand. Color drains from the horizon. What was once distant becomes depth. This is not another land. It is beneath land. Baal passes below roots, below stone, below the memory of water. The ground grows dry, then brittle, then empty of all scent and softness. Here, nothing waits to grow again. This is Mot's domain. It is not fire, it is not shadow. It is absence made vast. The air tastes of dust and old endings. The ground does not echo footsteps because nothing has ever lingered long enough to leave a sound behind. This is a place where time does not move forward, it only finishes. And Mot is there. He is not shaped like a king. He does not sit upon a throne. Mot is hunger given form. His body is wide and endless. His mouth a darkness without edge or bottom. His throat is a narrowing of all things. Within him are the remains of gods and men alike, ground down, undistinguishable, unfinished meals of eternity. He does not glare at Baal. He does not rise. He simply opens. There is no battle at this threshold. No thunder breaks aside. No lightning dares follow Baal here. Mot does not need to overpower. He only needs to receive it. Baal steps forward, and Mot closes, and Baal is thus consumed. And above, the world responds. Rain stops. Clouds thin and scatter like breath in cold air. Rivers shrink back to their banks. Then further still. The soil hardens. Fields crack open, not in protest, but in quiet failure. The land does not scream. Without Baal, life does not collapse violently. It begins to shrink. Leaves curl inward. Seeds sleep and do not wake. What once reached outward now pulls back, conserving what little warmth remains. Life does not rage against death. It simply waits. And now we have life without rain. Time passes, not as moments counted, but as absence accumulating. The gods wait, watching the sky for signs that do not. Clouds gather out of habit, then thin and disappear. Thunder remembers its old path and finds nothing to travel along. Days lengthen, and seasons hesitate, but still nothing changes. Altars stand unused, prayers rise and fall back unheard. The land learns the weight of silence and carries it poorly. Baal does not return, and Mot does not speak of it. He does not announce victory. He does not claim dominion. He does not mark the moment as special. Below the world, Mot continues exactly as he always has. He eats. The dead passed into him without ceremony. Gods, mortals, creatures of breath and root alike. Everything that reaches its end is taken in and broken down. No name is remembered longer than it takes to dissolve, because death does not require acknowledgement. It does not need triumph. It does not need witness. It only needs consumption. And so the world above learns something it did not know, that life can disappear without being noticed. But the thing that consumes it, life can disappear without being noticed by the thing that consumes it. But Anat refuses the stillness. Now Anat is the goddess of war and vitality, the blood-bright sister of Baal, known by many names. She who loves battle, she who delights in slaughter, the maiden who breaks armies. Where Baal brings rain, Anat brings motion. Where he nourishes, she cuts. Life does not only grow, it fights to remain. Anat is not patient, she is not tempered, she is the force that answers silence with violence. When Baal does not return, she notices the world's thinning breath, and she sees fields rise and fall. Rivers retreat, the land's bending inward on itself like a body conserving heat. And she searches for him, not gently, not cautiously. She tears through the borders of the world until there is nowhere left to look but below. And there she finds Mot. Mot does not greet her. He is not threatened. He does not flee. He opens his mouth as he always has. And Anat does not hesitate. She does not negotiate. She does not ask for balance. She does not respect necessity. She attacks even death itself. She strikes Mot with blade and fury, hacking him apart as one would butcher a carcass. She cuts him down, grinds his remains, scatters them across the land, into rivers, into soil, into the very dust that once starved. She burns him, she crushes him, she sows his pieces like seed. This is not wisdom, this is flat out rage. It is grief given muscle and steel, and for that moment, it works. With Mot scattered and broken, the world hesitates. Nothing rushes back all at once. Then slowly something shifts. The sky darkens, not with storm but with memory. Clouds begin to gather where air had forgotten how. The first drops of rain fall uncertainly, as if testing whether the earth still knows how to receive water. And the land answered. Cracked soil softens, seeds long dormant stir beneath the surface. Rivers remember that they're cousins and begin to move forward again. Thin at first, then fuller and surer. And Baal returns, not in fire and not in conquest. He rises like rain returning to parched land, not new, not changed, but resumed. Thunder follows him again, rolling across the sky like voices claiming victory in its range. Lightning traces old paths, illuminating fields that had nearly given up hope. Life surges back into motion. Green spreads, crops lift their heads, and the world exhales. Baal walks around the living once more, and abundance follows as if it always had. Not because he commanded it, but because his presence restores a rhythm that had previously been interrupted. For a time, it seems as though death had been defeated. The gods rejoice, the lands themselves flourish, and the cycle feels broken. And beneath the celebration, something stirs. Because Mot does not stay scattered. Death does not remain undone. What Anat destroyed was not death itself, but its form. And slowly, inevitably, Mot begins to gather again. Hunger reforms, absence thickens. The quiet below the world grows heavy with promise. Death has been wounded, but death has not been erased. And for Baal, for all his thunder, he knows this. Below the renewed world, something begins to gather. Not suddenly, not loudly. There's no scream, no thunder, no omen warning the living. Death does not announce its recovery. It does not demand recognition. It simply reforms. From the dust where Anat scattered him, Mot begins to draw himself together again. Grains rot, leaves fall back into soil, bones settle beneath the earth. Hunger, long delayed, resumes its work. Mot does not remember pain. He does not carry anger. What was broken will never be destroyed, only disappeared. Slowly, this absence deepens again. The silence between the world thickens. The great mouth that once closed around Baal opens once more, patient and unchanged. Death has finished being interrupted, and Mot rises. They struggle, not with weapons, not with storm or teeth, but with presence itself. Baal brings rain, Mot brings drought. Baal restores while Mot consumes. Neither can destroy the other. Life cannot exist without death to make room for it. Death cannot consume everything without ending its own purpose. And the struggle resolves the only way it could, not through victory, through limit. Baal will fall into Mot's mouth again, and he will rise again, and rain will return, and drought will follow. The land will flourish, and then it will be empty. This is not cruelty. This is in fact order. Mot does not rule the world. Baal does not escape him. They simply take turns. Now, as we've seen, Hades administers death. Hell keeps it. Osiris structures it. Izanami warns against crossing it. Savitri outwalks it, and Erishkigal stays within it. Mot consumes, and Baal proves that every living thing must learn that you are not immortal, you will not be erased, you are not seasonal, because life does not win by escaping death. It wins by returning every time death finishes eating. The Greek myth of origin, from the beginnings in chaos to the primeval gods and the titans. According to the Greek poet Hesiod's Theogony, at first only chaos existed, and chaos is the term given to the dark chasm that gave rise to the fundamental forces or primordial gods, such as earth, sky, and darkness. And thus, the mold of the universe was fashioned from these gods. Chaos manifested its children in spontaneous birth, and these were Gaia, who was earth, Eros, who was sexual love, Tartarus, who was the underworld, Erebus, who was darkness, and Nyx, who was night. Gaia was the primordial goddess responsible for manifesting the entire physical world, including the land, the flora, and the fauna, the sea, and the sky. Ether or brightness and Humera or day emerged from the union of Erebus and Nyx, thus darkness creating light. Uranus and Gaia were parents to 12 Titans, who were very powerful deities. There were 3 Cyclopses, one-eyed giants, and 3 ferocious hundred-handed giants, known as the Hundred-Handers. Night gave birth to Doom, Death, Strife, Sleep, and the goddess of retribution, among many others. The Titans. The powerful Titans were a mighty race that held dominion over the cosmos during the time of the Golden Age. These gods were the first generation of Titan gods and descended from the primeval gods Uranus and Gaia. And Uranus and Gaia had given birth to 12 Titans, 6 of whom were males and 6 who were females. The males were Koios, Cronus, Crius, Hyperion, Leptus, and Oceanus. The females being Thea, Rhea, Themis, Mnemosyne, Phoebe, and Tethys. These gods were immortal giants who possessed inspiring strength and knowledge of the ancient religions, as well as many skills in magic. They were known as the Elder Gods. The Titans rise to power. Now Cronus, with his brothers and his mother, plotted to overthrow Uranus, and one day they castrated the great god and stole control of the universe away from him, and thus the second generations of Titans would be born. Because during this time, the brothers and the sisters mingled with each other and would associate with the sons and daughters of their kin. Eos, Helios, and Selene were the offspring of Hyperion and Thea. Koios and Phoebe became parents to Leto and Asteria. Oceana and Potmec were the offspring of Oceanus and Tethys. Crius consorted with his half-sister Erebus and gave birth to Astraeus, Pallas, and Perseus. Cronus and Rheus would produce a multitude of younger gods, including Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, Hera, Hestia, and Demeter. And it was those who would ultimately rebel against their father Cronus, just as he had done to his father Uranus and his followers. This rebellion lasted for 10 years and was called the Titanomachy. This was what led to the defeat of the old order of Titans and led to a new order, kinged by Zeus himself. They called themselves the Olympians after Mount Olympus, where they established their home, all except for Hades, whose new dominion would be the underworld. And this set in motion a new age with a set of new gods to rule the universe.
Hades, the god who never lied. Now Hades is not feared because he is cruel. He is feared because he is honest. While all the other gods bargain, seduce, disguise, deceive, Hades does none of this. He does not appear in disguise, he does not test mortals, he does not pretend to be merciful, nor does he threaten punishment to inspire obedience. He simply administers death. There is no spectacle in his realm, no fires or brimstone, no screaming choirs of the damned. The underworld is not a torture chamber, it's a bureaucracy of eternity. Souls arrive, they are processed, and they are placed where they belong. Not where they want to be, not where they hope to be, where they truly and actually belong. And Hades does not lie because lies require desire. And among all things, Hades desires nothing. He is death as an administration. Now in Greek myth, chaos is not death. It is unchanged life. It's endless ambition, endless reproduction, endless conquest. Death is the corrective mechanism that keeps existence from collapsing under its own excess. So Hades is not the enemy of life, but he is its boundary. When kings overreach, Zeus strikes them down. When heroes rage, Ares feeds on their violence. When lovers betray, it is Aphrodite who stirs more chaos. But when people die, when the end comes, Hades simply does his job. He has no judgment speeches. He has no speeches at all. He's not going to punish you with his words. He's not going to ridicule you. And he is the only God who is known to 100% keep his word. If Hades says something will happen, it happens. When Orpheus descends into the underworld to retrieve Eurydice, Hades does not trick him. He gives him a single condition. Do not look back. No hidden clauses, no divine wordplay. Orpheus fails not because Hades lies, but because humans cannot resist doubt. That was his downfall. The tragedy is not Hades' cruelty, it is Orpheus' inability to trust certainty. Hades never breaks the rules. He is the rules. Now, why the gods fear him? Now, the Olympians rule through personality. It's ego, emotion, alliances. Hades rules through finality. Zeus can be overthrown. Poseidon can be defied. Hera can be appeased. Even war can be avoided. Death cannot. Hades does not need worshippers. He does not need temples. He does not need praise. Every god eventually answers to him, although quietly. Now, Persephone is the only compromise that we see, and this is the one story people cling to as evidence of Hades' villainy, the story of his wife. This is not a story of abuse. It is a story of cosmic balance. Hades does not kidnap her in secret. He asks Zeus for permission. He follows protocol of their world and their time. The seasons change not because Hades is cruel, but because death must share time with life. Persephone becomes queen not by force, but by eating the seed, by accepting the role. And even love in the underworld is contractual. And Hades is vastly misunderstood. Humans prefer lies that feel good over truths that feel cold. They would rather believe in punishment than accept this as maintenance. Hades does not judge you. He does not care if you are famous, rich, or loved. He only ensures that nothing overstays its welcome. In a universe ruled by ego, he is the only god who operates without one. Hades is not evil. Hades is necessary. And that is why he will never be loved in the way that the others are. Because love wants exceptions, and death does not accept those. A hymn to Hathor, the mistress of Dendera. Come forth, Hathor, lady of heaven, she who shines in the face of the sky, you who are called the golden one, the beautiful, the beloved of Ra. You are joy before the heart remembers sorrow. You are music before the world learned to listen. When your feet touch the earth, life softens. Where your gaze rests, fear loses its grip. You are the smile that steadies the sun, the breath that calms the stormy eye. Come to your house at Dendera, O Hathor, that order may endure and that people may live. Hail to you, Hathor, lady of heaven, mistress of all gods, eye of Ra who shines in glory, golden one who fills the two lands with beauty. You rise in joy, you set in peace. When you appear, all faces rejoice, all hearts are glad, for love walks in your footsteps. Lady of music, mistress of song and dance, the sistrum sounds for you, the men at rest on your breast. You gladden the weary, you lift the bowed head, you restore what the world has made heavy. When you are gentle, the land prospers. When you are distant, the sky trembles. Come to your house at Dendera, O beautiful one, that you may see your people, and that they may live. Hail to you, Hathor, lady of the west, she who stands at the threshold of eternity. You receive the justified. You offer cool water to the weary soul. You place bread in the hands of the blessed. You welcome the traveler who has crossed in truth. No terror walks beside you. No cruelty dwells in your house. The dead rejoice to see your face, for you are the comfort of the West and the peace of those who have endured. O Hathor, may you open the way. May you speak kindly of the heart. May the soul rest beneath your sycamore. Thus Hathor is praised, not only as joy in life, but as mercy beyond it. May her name endure, may her light remain. The myth of Izanami and why death must remain unseen. Now, Izanami does not rule the dead because she chose to. She rules because love followed her where it should not have gone. In Japanese myth, death is not evil. It is contamination, a state that spreads where boundaries have been violated. Izanami is not terrifying because she dies. She is terrifying because she is looked at after death. Izanami and Izanagi create the world together. The land, the sea, the gods, and creation itself is intimate, cooperative, and sacred. So this is not a domination myth. This is a partnership. And then Izanami dies, giving birth to fire. It is painful, it is messy, and it feels wrong, as we watch creation claim its very first prize. But then we see love that refuses to let go, because Izanagi cannot accept her death. And this is the first mistake. So he descends into Yomo, the underworld, not to conquer, not to rescue the world, but to bring his wife back to life. This is not noble. It is selfish. He wants continuity where none is allowed. Izanami tells him not to look at her, not as a test, but simply as mercy. And then there comes the look that breaks all reality, because Izanagi looks anyway. What he sees is not a monster in the cinematic sense, but what he sees is rot, decay. This is the truth of what death does to the body when life has left it. The horror is not Izanami's form. The horror is that love demanded to see it. And in that moment, intimacy becomes violation. Izanami does not chase Izanagi out of rage alone. She chases him because he has broken the rule that keeps the worlds apart. Death must remain unseen, because once you see it, you cannot unsee the effects of death. You cannot romanticize it. You cannot pretend love makes it safe. Izanami becomes death not out of malice, but out of necessity. And this is why Izanami must be sealed away. When Izanagi escapes, he seals Yami behind a boulder. This is not abandonment. It is truly containment. The living cannot coexist with unveiled death. Izanami promises to take 1,000 lives a day. Izanagi answers that he will create 1,500 more. It is not victory, it is called equilibrium. Life and death are no longer lovers. They are opposing processes. Hades teaches us that death is inevitable. Hell teaches us that death is final. Osiris teaches us that death continues. Izanami teaches us something much harder. Death is not meant to be witnessed up close by those who still love, because love will try to bring it back, and death will answer by spreading. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not look back. Manet, the one who does not arrive. The world still moves. Caravans cross the dust-choked roads. Merchants count their goods. Children run between shadows that have not yet learned to linger. Men sharpen blades and speak of tomorrow as if it's owed to them. Life assumes continuation. That assumption is why Manet is never noticed first. Her shrine stands where motion slows, near graves, near the sea, where waves erase their own footprints, near the edge of settlements where names begin to thin. It is not grand, it does not announce itself, it does not arrive. People come to Manet only when they have already begun to suspect that time is no longer stretching forward the way it once had. A traveler arrives. He is not desperate. Not yet. He believes there is still margin, that something can be delayed, negotiated, rearranged. He brings offerings, not to bargain, but because the habit insists that all powers must respond. He kneels. Nothing happened. No wind shifts, no voice answers, no sign breaks the air. That is not neglect. That is Menad. Among the peoples of pre-Islamic Arabia, Menad was not feared as a destroyer.
She was honored as the one who measured. She does not strike, she does not pursue, she does not arrive suddenly in the night. She assigns. Every life is given a portion, a length, a span, a weight of days. Once given, it is not revised. Manat does not revoke what has been counted. The traveler waits longer than he intended to. He listens for something, anything that might suggest change, but the shrine remains still. And he begins to understand. Manat is not silenced because she has not heard him. Manat is not silent because she has not heard him. She is silent because the question has already been answered. There is no realization of doom, no terror, only clarity. Manat was present at his beginning, not watching and not judging, simply counting. The length of his breath was measured before he took his first. The number of times his name would be spoken was already known. The moment he would stand here, waiting, was never in doubt. She does not observe the end of lives. She witnesses the moment they are allocated. So the traveler lowers his head. He does not ask for more time. He does not plead. There is nothing left to say, because Manat is not cruel. Cruelty implies choice. She is not merciful either. Mercy implies flexibility. She is final because she is precise. Manat does not come for the living. She does not rise when death is near. She does not cross thresholds or lift veils. She has always been there. When the traveler leaves the shrine, the world continues as before. The caravans still move, the markets still hum, and the children still run. Nothing has changed, except the traveler now understands that continuation is not promise. It is allowance, and allowance is finite. Manat remains, unmoving, unarguing, unimpressed by fear or hope. She does not need to appear in the end, but she was present at the beginning. Mokash, she who holds the threads, a Slavic myth. Before fate was spoken aloud, before destiny was written in words, there was Mokash. She does not sit above the world. She does not rule from the sky. She is not thunder, and she is not flame. Mokash is found closer to the ground, where hands touch soil, where feet grow tired, where life is shaped slowly, one motion at a time. She is the keeper of threads, not the sharp blade that cuts them. And in the quiet places of the old forest, where the air is damp and the earth remembers every footstep, it is said that Mokash sits at her loom. She weaves not cloth but lives. Each thread is a moment. Each strand is a breath taken, without knowing what comes next. Each knot is a choice remembered, not judged, not corrected, only placed. Here nothing is rushed, nothing is wasted. Mokash does not punish. She does not reward either. She does not pull the thread tight or let it fall loose without reason. She simply records. When people sleep, she works. When villages grow quiet and fires burn low, her loom continues its steady rhythm, a sound too soft to wake the mind, but strong enough to hold the world together. When hands spin wool or flax, they echo her labor. When fingers learn the motion of weaving, they remember something older than language. Mokash teaches that fate is not a sudden fall, but a slow gathering. What is repeated becomes strong. What is neglected grows thin. What is pulled too hard will fray, and what is held too tightly will lose its shape. She governs patience, because patience is the shape of endurance. In old Slavic lands, Mokash was honored not with towering temples, but with care, with clean floors, with honest work, with the steady keeping of promises that no one else could see. She was honored in the quiet dignity of daily life, in spinning and mending, in the acceptance that not all things can be hurried into being. To forget Mokash is to forget that life is built by hands.
not all at once, but again and again. She is present in the spinning wheel, in the rhythm of breath, in the slow work of becoming what one already is. She teaches that fate is not the enemy to be fought, but a pattern to be understood. When storms come, she does not shout them away. She simply waits. When sorrow comes, she does not deny it. She simply weaves it in. The thread darkens, but it does not break. And when joy appears, she does not cling. She allows it to pass through the loom, brightening the pattern for a time before settling back to memory. Mokash reminds us that fate is not a chain, and it's not a prison. It is a fabric, strong enough to hold, soft enough to move, shaped by every motion made in silence. As night deepens, as the world grows slower, the loom does not stop. Thread by thread, moment by moment, she continues her work, not to control, not to command, but to hold. And in that holding, all things are allowed to rest. The Myth of Neith. In the multifaceted pantheon of the ancient Kemetic deities, one goddess stands out as a formidable and revered force. Neith, the protector goddess of war and hunting. Her statues were commanding and striking, depicting her with a muscular frame and fierce expression. In one hand she held a bow with an arrow ready to strike, while in the other she carried a shield emblazoned with powerful symbols. Neith was not just a goddess of brute strength. She was also known for her wisdom and strategic thinking in battle. She was seen as a protective figure by her worshippers, always watching over them and guiding them towards victory. This ancient Kemetic goddess holds a revered place in the society's history, with her worship spanning back to the pre-dynastic era. Her primary connection was with the city of Sais, situated along the Nile Delta, where her devotees built their religious center dedicated to her. Her name itself, Neith, translates to the one who is, an enigmatic title that symbolizes her multifaceted character and importance among the other deities of Kemetic beliefs. In some depictions, she is shown as a formidable warrior goddess, equipped with an enchanted and divine bow and arrows that themselves were woven from the thread of reality. She often wears a red crown adorned with crossed arrows, symbolizing her ties with combat, but more importantly, safeguarding. She was revered as the deity of hunting, weaving, and warfare. And she was also seen in some circles as the creator goddess, often connected to the original waters of disorder from which all existence sprung forth. Now, legend has it that Neith, this divine goddess, was the ultimate protector of both gods and humanity. It is said that she crafted the very world we live in, shaping every single living being with her powerful hands. Her presence was sought after to safeguard even the mighty sun god Ra on his daily voyage across the sky, ensuring his safe passage so that he could bring light and warmth to all. She was revered as the guardian of life, ensuring balance and harmony among all beings. Neith was a neter held in very high esteem, her name spoken with reverence and awe. She was known not only for her strength and power, but also for her wise and compassionate nature. Stories of her teachings and guidance spread far and wide, as she was revered as a teacher of knowledge and wisdom. In the myths surrounding her, she is credited with inventing both writing and the Medineche, as well as weaving and other crafts. The people believed that she bestowed these gifts upon them to help guide them through their daily lives. She was seen as the patron goddess of weavers, and those skilled in the craft would often invoke her blessings for success in their work. Her presence could be felt in every loom, every thread carefully spun into intricate patterns under her watchful eye. Neith not only held the role of protector and teacher, but she was also closely tied to the afterlife and the journey of the soul to the underworld. Her presence exuded a sense of maternal warmth as she guided departed souls on their final voyage. She watched over them with a loving gaze, ensuring their safe passage into the realm of the gods beyond. Her gentle touch provided comfort to those who were leaving behind the earthly realm, granting them peace in their transition to the divine world. The weight of her responsibility was evident in her strong yet nurturing stance, embodying both strength and compassion in her role as guardian of the afterlife. A goddess of war and protection was a complex deity, having both a benevolent nature but holding back a fierce and formidable power within. When ancient Kemet faced danger and conflict, her name was evoked to bring forth defense and victory. Her presence towered over the battlefield like a mighty colossus with unbreakable determination. In one hand she held, as ever, her bow, made of pure gold, its arrows capable of piercing any obstacle. In the other she often held a staff imbued with ancient magic, ready to unleash spells and curses upon her enemies. Within the chaos of battle, Neith's divine wrath manifested itself, leaving destruction in its wake as she fought fiercely for her people's survival. In ancient Kemetic art, Neith is often depicted with that fierce visage as a triumphant goddess. One of the most well-known portrayals shows her standing with one foot planted firmly on the head of a vanquished enemy. This image exudes power and strength, symbolizing Neith's victory over chaos and evil. It serves as a constant reminder of her role as a protector and the defender of the Kemetic people. Her expression is stern and determined, her stance unwavering as she stands guard against any threats to her people's well-being. The intricate details of her headdress and garments add to her regal appearance, showing her divine status among the gods, or nectars as they were called. This depiction truly captures the essence of Neith as a formidable deity who will stop at nothing to ensure her people's prosperity. Now, Neith is also closely associated with the goddess Sekhmet, another powerful warrior goddess known for her role in warfare and destruction. Now, both goddesses were often invoked in times of war and conflict, with Sekhmet representing the fierce and vengeful aspect of war, while Neith embodied the protective and nurturing side. The myth of Neith reveals a complex and multifaceted deity who plays a vital role in ancient Kemetic religion and in society. As the protector goddess of war and hunting, she was revered for her strength, wisdom, and protective nature. Her statues hang to this day, always showing her ever-present bow slung on her back and her arrows at the ready. She was seen as a fierce warrior, capable of defending Kemet and its people from her enemies. Her braided hair adorned with feathers and symbols of power. But Neith was also known as a wise and compassionate teacher, depicted with a scroll in one hand and offering guidance to those seeking knowledge or direction. In death, she guided the souls of the deceased to the afterlife, her presence like a comforting beacon in the darkness. Neith's enduring legacy as a powerful and benevolent goddess continues to be celebrated and revered by modern scholars and enthusiasts of ancient Kemetic mythology, eager to uncover more about this enigmatic deity, the warrior goddess, blessed with the greatest of beauty and the sharpest of minds.
The myth of Savitri and Yama, when devotion outwalks death. Now, in Indic mythology, Yama is the god of death. This is the first mortal to die and the first to discover what lies beyond life. He does not rule death through terror or conquest, but through precedent. He knows the path because he walked it first. He is not a demon lurking in darkness. He is a judge, a keeper of order, a figure of calm authority. He rides a buffalo, carries a noose not as a weapon, but as a symbol of inevitability, and presides over the passage every soul must eventually take. Yama is not evil. He is not cruel. He is law. In Indic thought, death is not a villain to be slain. It is a function, precise, inevitable, and impartial. Yama does not take pleasure in death, nor does he rush it. He enforces it because the universe requires balance, and balance requires ending. And Savitri does not challenge that. She does accept that. She early on made a choice with clear open eyes. Now, it must be said that Savitri is a mortal woman.
She is not a goddess in disguise, not a heroine born to destiny, just a human, raised with discipline, clarity, and uncommon depth of mind. She's known for her devotion, her intelligence, and her ability to listen more than she speaks. When the time comes to choose a husband, she does not wait for fate to deliver it. She goes out into the world and chooses a man, Satyavan. Their meeting is simple. There's no divine spectacle, only recognition. But before the marriage, a seer warns her of what is to come. Satyavan is fated to die within a year, and this knowledge is precise. There is no ambiguity, there is no hope of error. Savitri does not ask the prophecy to be undone. She does not look for another man. Savitri chooses her husband knowing his fate is to die within this year. Not because she believes that fate can be tricked, not because she expects divine intervention. She chooses him anyway. And this matters because devotion chosen with full knowledge of loss is not desperation. It is resolve. And as prophecy had foretold, the time of Satyavan's death arrives. There is no chaos in this moment, no omen in the sky. Life simply reaches its appointed edge. And Yama comes soon after, as he always does. He is tall and composed, dark as shadow, but solid as law. He rides no storm and carries no fury. In his hand is a noose, not as a weapon, but simply a symbol of completion. His presence does not frighten by force, it silences by certainty. He is truly the specter of death. There is no drama, no cruelty, and no hesitation. Yama takes Satyavan's soul and turns to leave, carrying it towards its destined place. And Savitri does something that no one expects. As she grieves, as she watches death walk away with her husband, she does the only thing left for her to do. She follows. Not to fight, not to beg. She simply walks beside death. Yama moves along his path as he always had. It is not a road of fire or torment, but a narrowing of the world itself. The sounds of life thin out. What remains is quiet, steady, irreversible. This is not punishment, it is simply transition. And then he notices her, a living woman walking beside him. Not stumbling, not dragging her feet, simply keeping pace. And Yama stops. He turns, his voice is calm without threat or anger. This is not your place, he tells her. The living do not follow the dead. Savitri does not argue, she does not plead, she does not even reach for her husband. She bows her head slightly and speaks, not to challenge death, but to address law. You are Yama, she says, keeper of order, guardian of what must be. You did not take without reason, and you did not act without duty. And Yama listens. Tell me, Savitri asks, what is righteousness, if not the faithful carrying out one's role? And what is duty, if not walking the path one has chosen without deviation? And as he turns, she walks again without speaking. A wife who abandons her husband at the edge of death has fulfilled her duty. A law that does not answer truth, can it still be called just? Savitri does not accuse, she does not demand, she simply asks. And because Yama is law, he must answer. And this is the power of measured speech. Yama listens as Savitri finishes speaking, and for a long moment the path is silent. Then the god of the dead answers, not with a rebuke, but with retribution. Your words are aligned with Dharma, he says. You have spoken without deceit, without fear, and without demand, and it is fitting that such clarity should be acknowledged. Yama turns towards her. Ask me a boon, he says, one that does not concern the life that I have taken. And Savitri bows her head. May my father regain his sight, she says, that he may see the world clearly once again. Yama inclines his head. Granted. They continue walking, and after some time, Yama speaks again. Ask another boon. Savitri answers softly. May my lineage endure and prosper, guided by righteousness and balance. Yama does not hesitate. Granted. They walk on. The silence stretches, and the world grows thinner still. And then Yama speaks for the third time. Ask again. Savitri lifts her eyes. May I bear children with my husband, she says, and may our union be long and whole. Yama speaks the words as he had done previously. Granted. And only then does the law complete its circuit. Yama stills. For the first time, death pauses. Not in error, not in anger, but in understanding. A boon granted by law cannot contradict itself, and so without spectacle, without protest, Yama turns back. And with him, the path responds. The narrowing of the world eases. The weight of the air lightens. Sound, long absent, begins to return. Not all at once, but gently. The hush of death gives way to the faint rustle of the wind, the distant echoes of the birds, and the soft persistence of life continuing. Color seeps back into the world, not suddenly, but naturally. The shadows lose their grip. The ground beneath their feet feels solid again. The threshold between worlds recedes, sealing itself without ceremony. And Yama releases the soul that he carries. Setyavan breathes. Life returns to him, not as a miracle, but as a correction. Law fulfilled, not undone. He opens his eyes and rises, steady and whole. Savitri does not cry out. She does not collapse. She simply moves to his side and walks with him, as she always had. Behind them, the path closes. Yama does not linger. He does not watch. The work here is finished, and he has other tasks to complete. And this is a true victory. Savitri does not defeat death. She does not break its rules. She does not demand exception. She understands the law so completely that it must honor her. Yama keeps his word. The boon stands. The order of the universe remains intact. No violence, no rebellion, no illusion of immortality, just precision. And this is why Savitri's story endures, because she proves that devotion, when guided by clarity, does not need to fight death. It only needs to walk with it, until death, bound by its own truth, must turn back. And as we have seen, Hades administers death. Hell accepts death. Osiris structures it. Izanami warns us not to cross its boundary, and Savitri teaches something even more rare. If you understand death deeply enough, you don't need to fight it at all. Sometimes the cleanest victory is the one where no one bleeds and the laws remain intact. He is chaos. He is a force of nature, unique even among the Pasejet, the 9 perfect representations. He himself is the protector of the living force of all, the defender of Atun Ra, the fire and soul of all things, beset nightly by the ultimate destructive force that was Apep, the snake of chaos. Chaos seeking to destroy order, and order seeking to control chaos. The ultimate battle. And he was Set, who had chosen to defend Ma'at. He was chaos defying chaos. He announced himself as I who slay the enemies of Ra. And so he did. It was of a particular offense to Apep that Set, born of her energy, would protect the things she hated most. From each night he would defend, her own energy turning against itself. But such is the way of chaos, the storm within the storm. He is Sutek, Ash, Nubti, he before whom the sky shakes. He of 2 faces. Apep may rage, but he is Set, great of strength, and none would move him from his task. But still, the thought of what is to come had the full attention of the nectar of war and chaos. It was her, and she is angry, as seemed to be her nature. He digs his feet into the soil. He had chosen this form in the model of Wepawet. He had become a hybrid of a wolf and a man. A form he finds very comfortable. This body is tall and lean, rippled with muscle. He stands on 2s like a man, but could as easily have taken all 4s. His skin is black as the cosmos, drinking in the power of the source, the Meduneche. His black, fierce eyes are sharp and keen, his fangs long. The Lord of 2-fold strength had taken many foes in his long life. His black dragon scale armor vibrates with shimmering energy. He ventured into the Vega star itself, to capture the raw ore and bring it to Jehudi, the master weapons maker. From this vibrating metal from the Vega star, he forged the Typhoon, the Whirlwind, a set of armor like nothing before. Set at his core is a creature of dark energy, dark matter, the force that expands the universe, creates new worlds and unpredictable forms of life. And this armor, made of the rare and precious metal Jehudi had called Vega 9, is the perfect vessel for amplifying his energy. He fashioned 2 swords, a dagger, and a small warhammer from the metal, and the weapons of Set were complete. He had been anticipating this moment for a great while. This was inevitable, this conflict. She, like him, would not have it any other way. The mistress of dread indeed. She had chosen this place, this jungle. But there was desert here too, and he would draw strength from it. The creatures of the desert were his to command. He could feel a ripple in the ether of this place. A presence had entered, a force, a nectar. She is here, the one who is powerful. His keen wolf eyes glimpse her several miles away, a bright star in the cosmos, a burning ember against the background of black infinity. The one before whom evil trembles. She is the lioness, the feared one, the eye of Ra, the protector of that which matters most, the beautiful berserker. Her golden form stalks through the hot sands of the desert. She glows with raw power. Few could match her. She too wears her armor, forged from the 9th metal, called the God metal, the work of Jehudi, just like the armor of Set. It was gold flamed with red blood. She had infused it with her soul fire, enhanced it with ancient symbols, and this armor had never failed her. She had slain humans by the thousands, dragons and titans by the hundreds. In her veins flowed fire and lava, her terrible claws still stained with blood. Her glittering white fangs shine like ivory daggers. She is confidence incarnate, a supreme predator, the Lady of Slaughter. Her infamous dual swords in hand, terrible curved blades that separate limb from body with supernatural precision. She is Sekhmet, infused with fire. She is the worship of Memphis. She is the destroyer. But he is the Lord of the desert and all things of it. The sky turns gray and hums with the vibrating air. There is a beating sound. 10,000 wings of the wasp army of Lord Set begin to take the first attack. They are a masterpiece of harmony, military precision on display, a glimmering legion of black and gold armored soldiers. Vicious, precise, and venom-filled, they are the things of nightmare, and the lion goddess is their prey. They attack in waves, finding the flesh beneath the golden fur and the armor, the sting of 1,000 wasps. She roars in pain as venom is pumped into her system, engulfed in the swarm, engulfed in the frenzy. But still, she is Sekhmet. She is fire. She glows, a bright ember against the black cosmos. She explodes into flame, and the swarm is no more, consumed by the soul fire she commands. The twisting roar of flame finds the Lord of Chaos, and it is his turn to howl as the fire seeks to tame him. But he is Set, the untamed, and he will not be tamed. He emerges from the flame, his black armor vibrating and glowing as it absorbs the powerful energy. And then they are on each other. Black claws and golden fangs, Vega star metal clashing with the metal of the gods. The lioness versus the wolf. Bloodletting at the highest level. His fangs find her throat as her claws find his soft stomach. They are infinite black and brilliant gold in a twisting mask of rage and power. The sky darkens, the air burns, and in the end, the lioness stands. Drenched in the blood of the Lord of Chaos. Her roar shakes the heavens as she sinks into the sand. She is the one. She has tamed the force that could not be tamed. But still, this body of hers is near death itself. She leans against his body in the sand as the rage in her quells, looking into the eyes of the great wolf, her great enemy. She had destroyed this body, this half-wolf form. But Set is a force of creation, His presence helps maintain the balance. Nay, his vibrating energy will return, and as always, he would be at his post on the great solar bark, defending as always the thing that matters most. And so would she, for she is Sekhmet.
Shiva, the one who sits still. Before the worlds learned how to move, before time learned how to count itself, there was Shiva, not as a destroyer, but as the one who did not move. Shiva sits at the edge of creation, high upon the mountain, where the air is thin and the mind grows quiet. He does not rule by command. He does not speak unless spoken to. He closes his eyes, and in that closing, the universe itself exhales. Around him, galaxies turn. Stars are born and burn out. Seasons rise and fall like breath. Yet Shiva remains unmoving. His stillness deeper than that motion. His silence louder than sound. The snakes that coil around his body do not strike. They rest. The ash upon his skin is not death, but the reminder that all things return to quiet. Shiva is the god of meditation, because meditation is not escape, it is witnessing. He watches the universe dance without joining the dance. He allows desire, fear, and time to pass in front of him, like clouds crossing the sky. And because he does not cling, nothing binds him.
I'm not even using it right now.
It is said that when Shiva opens his eyes, all creation trembles. But when he keeps them closed, the creation itself learns how to breathe. In his stillness, the restless will find rest. In his silence, the loud learn how to listen. Shiva teaches without teaching, by showing that nothing needs to be forced, that even gods may sit quietly and let the world unfold on its own. And so he remains, not rushing the end, not pulling the beginning closer, but holding the space between moments, where all things are allowed to be. If the universe feels loud, Shiva sits. If the mind feels crowded, Shiva sits.
And in that sitting, the night remembers how to stay calm. The night on Route 3, September 19th, 1961. It's just after midnight, northern New Hampshire. The road is narrow and dark, cutting through forest that hasn't decided whether it wants to belong to the night or to the moonlight. Pine trees line both sides, tall and close, their tops catching just enough pale silver light to be visible. The air is cool and clean, the kind that sharpens your breath when you inhale. Damp earth, resin, the faint sweetness of leaves beginning to rot. There is no traffic, no distant glow. So when the car moves, it feels like the only thing awake. Barney Hill drives with both hands on the wheel, straight-backed, quiet. His eyes move constantly. Road, mirrors, tree lines, sky. He's not tense, but he's never careless. Night has taught him to stay attentive. Betty sits behind him, relaxed, talking off and on, letting silence settle when it needs to. She's wearing a simple dress, soft fabric, nothing fancy. Shoes meant for walking, not for running. The kind you forget that you're wearing. The moon hangs low and steady, not dramatically, not ominously, just present. It flattens distance, it stretches shadows, it makes the forest feel closer than it really is. That's when Betty notices the light. At first, it's barely worth mentioning. A bright point above the tree line, steady and white. She almost ignores it, but something about it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't twinkle, it doesn't blink. She points it out. Barney glances up, and the light moves. Not drifting, not falling, but adjusting. It slides across the sky with intent, correcting its position as if responding to them. The air inside the car feels heavy all of a sudden, like pressure before a storm that never comes. They keep driving, and the light keeps pace. It doesn't rush, it doesn't lag. It simply remains. Closer now, lower than it should be. Its glow is contained, dense, almost solid, not spilling onto the night, but pressing against it. And Barney slows. The road curves around Indian Head Mountain. The forest tightens. Moonlight breaks into pieces between the branches. So he pulls over. The engine cuts. Metal ticks softly as it cools. The silence afterward is immense. Barney steps out of the car, gravel shifting under his shoes. The smell of pine is sharper here, but it's mixed with something else, faint, metallic, like ozone. The air feels thick, charged, alive. He raises the binoculars. The object is close now, too close. Disc shape, smooth, no wings, no seams, no sound. It hovers without effort, light pulsing softly within it, not bright enough to blind, but impossible to ignore. And then he sees the windows, and behind them, figures. Upright, humanoid, still. Their faces are pale. Their eyes are large and dark, unblinking. They don't react when he notices them. They don't move closer or further away. They just watch. The gaze lands on him with weight. Not curiosity, not threat, but assessment. Something cold moved through Barney's chest, sharp and immediate. This is not imagination. This is not confusion. And this is not fear of the unknown. This is recognition of being outmatched. He lowers his binoculars and runs. Gravel skids beneath his feet. His breath comes fast. His heart hammers. He doesn't shout. There's no time for that. He gets back into the car and drives. Betty doesn't blink. She doesn't react. They pull onto the road, tires crunching, engine roaring too loud for a quiet forest. The light moves with them, keeping pace, floating alongside it as if the road meant nothing to it. And then the sound. Beep, beep, beep. It's not loud. It doesn't echo, but it vibrates. The steering wheel hums under Barney's hands. The seats tremble. The vibration climbs through the frame of the car and into their bodies, settling into their eyes, tightening the jaws. The air tastes metallic. Betty's ears ring. Her skin prickles. The forest blurs. And then there is no road. There is no sky. There is no memory. Time doesn't slow. It just disappears. When awareness returns, the car is moving. The road stretches ahead, empty and familiar. The forest looks unchanged. The moon hasn't moved nearly enough, but 2 hours are gone. Betty looks down at herself. Her dress is torn at the hem, fabric pulled and stretched. Dirt smears her shoes in places she doesn't remember stepping. Barney's shoes are scuffed too, at the toes, not worn, but they look dragged. His watch is dead. The second hand is frozen mid-tick. They don't talk about it, but they drive. When they reach home, the house feels smaller than it should. Too quiet. Out inside the lock. Inside, the familiar smells of wood and fabric settle around them. But underneath all that is something sharp and thin, like a place they didn't bring with them, but didn't leave behind either. Betty changes clothes slowly. She runs her fingers over the tears in her dress, trying to remember what happened. Barney sits at the edge of the bed, staring at his hands. His jaws tight. His shoulders stay raised long after there's nothing to brace for. That night, sleep comes unevenly. Betty dreams, not fragments, not symbols, but clear scenes, repeating. Lights without shadows, narrow corridors, figures who don't speak but somehow answer. A room where she lies still while something examines her. Not cruel, not gentle, but precise. She wakes with her heart racing and the feeling that something has just stepped away. Barney doesn't dream. He lies awake, listening to the house breathe. Every sound feels too close. When he closes his eyes, he sees the eyes again, unblinking, calm and certain. Days pass, then weeks. They try not to talk about it, but the silence grows heavy. Certain smells bring it back, certain sounds, the way the night feels when it's too still, when the air seems to pause. Sometimes Betty finds herself staring at the sky longer than she means to. Sometimes Barney wakes feeling tense, his fists clenched, his body remembering something that his mind refuses to hold. And life continues, but something remains open. Some nights, when the road outside is empty and the world feels held in place, it feels just like it did in New Hampshire, like the air is waiting, like the dark is paying attention. And once you felt that, once you felt the vibration settle in your bones, once you know what it's like to be seen without being known, you don't forget. You learn how to live with this lesson. And this is a story of the alien myth. The forge roared like a beast beneath the weight of midday, its fiery breath mingling with the copper scent of heated metal. George Markley's muscles glistened with sweat as he hammered a plowshare into submission. The clang of iron rang out in steady rhythm, echoing against the walls of his smithy. "Morning, Mr. Mackley," greeted a passerby, tipping his hat to the blacksmith, whose reputation for quality work was as solid as the anvil upon which he wrought it. "Morning," George replied, without missing his beat, his voice as gruff as the calluses on his palms. He didn't need to look up to know who spoke. The townfolk were as familiar to him as the tools of his trade. The skin around his eyes crinkled slightly, betraying focus rather than friendliness. Here in the heart of Shroud, amidst sparks and smoke, George was sovereign of his realm. Each strike of his hammer forged not only the metal, but also the life he had built from nothing. As he plunged the glowing plowshare into the quenching trough, steam erupted with a harsh hiss, veiling him momentarily from the world outside. In the shrouded cocoon of mist, George allowed himself a rare moment of introspection. They see a blacksmith, the craftsman, the provider. But beneath this soot and sweat lies a man shaped by fire, tempered by adversity. George set the plowsmith aside to cool and wiped his brow with the back of his forearm, leaving a smudge of ash across his dark skin. His nostrils flared as another wave of heat cascaded from the open maw of the forge. It was relentless, this dance of fire and steel, but it was a dance he had mastered. "Got something there that'll last 100 harvests, I reckon," commented an elderly customer, leaning back against the doorframe with an appreciative nod. "Only 100, George quipped, the corner of his mouth twitching upward. "You underestimate my work, sir." Laughter followed, a brief interlude in the day's labor. Yet even as humor lightened the air, a shadow lingered behind George's eyes, a harbinger of storms yet to come. "Quality, that's what you're paying for," George said, turning back to his anvil. "And quality is what keeps this town coming through my doors." His thoughts drifted, unbidden, to confrontations past and those potentially looming on the horizon. Being a man of color in 1919 meant living with a target on your back. But George refused to bow or break. His shop stood as a testament to his resolve. Each success hard-earned, each challenge met with the steadfastness of the iron he shaped. "Can't argue with that," the customer agreed, watching the blacksmith return to his craft, lost once more in the rhythm of his anvil's song. George's heart matched the tempo, a resolute drumbeat against the injustices of the world. Here in the sweltering embrace of his forge, he was untouchable. Each swing of his hammer a declaration, a creation of legacy. "Let them come with their hate," he thought, as the metal yielded beneath his strength. "I will stand, as I always have, unyielding as steel in my hands." And with that silent vow, George Markley, the blacksmith of Shroud, Oklahoma, continued to reshape the world, one red-hot ember at a time. The clang of metal on anvil reverberated through the blacksmith's shop, a symphony of sparks and sweat. George wiped his brow with a thick forearm, the heat of the forge painting his face with a sheen that glimmered in the dim light. The horseshoe he was working on had taken shape, carved as perfectly as a crescent moon that would rise over Shroud that night. "Pa, look!" Evelyn's voice pierced the steady rhythm of George's labors, her small hands cupped around a caterpillar she found outside. Her eyes were wide with wonder, reflecting the same curiosity that had always fueled George's own spirit. "Careful now, Evie," Tilly chided gently from behind her, balancing George Jr. on her hip. "Don't squeeze too tight." Her presence brought a softer air to the soot and iron of the shop, the domestic blending seamlessly with the industrial. "Isn't she a beauty, Pa?" Evelyn asked, her eyes still fixed on the creature inching across her palm. Sure is, sweetheart, George said, setting down the tools and offering his daughter a smile that cringed the corners of his eyes. He took a moment to appreciate the simple joy he found in life's tiny miracle, the respite from the world's harshness. George, dinner soon, Tilly reminded him, the warmth in her voice reaching out like a comforting embrace. She knew the importance of the shop, but also the value of the family table. All right, I'll be in soon, George replied, returning to the red-hot iron before him. His thoughts wandered briefly, considering the future his children might forge for themselves. Would Evelyn's fascination with creatures turn into a love of all living things? Could little George's laughter ring out in a world less cruel than his own? His work was more than crafting tools and shoeing horses. It was providing for his family, securing a piece of the world where they could thrive. Your supper will be quality too, if you don't let it get too cold, Tilly playfully called back, her words punctuated by the giggles of their son. Wouldn't dream of it, George answered, the corner of his mouth lifting. With the final quench of the horseshoe in the cooling trough, steam rose up, wrapping around him like the day's end. Pa, when I grow up, will I make things like you? Evelyn's question pulled him from a swirling mist of thoughts. Maybe, he said, soothing her hair, or maybe you'll make something even better. Better than horseshoes? Evelyn's skepticism was palpable, her innocence yet untouched by the world's darker truths. Much better, George assured her, his heart swelling with protective love that was both fierce and tender. You'll make a difference, my girl. You and your brother both. Promise? Her small voice held the weight of all the hopes and dreams he had for her. Promise. The word was a steel beam in the structure of his soul, unbendable, unbreakable. Time to wash up now, Tilly's voice rang with authority that only a mother could wield. Go on, Evie. Go help your ma. George watched him leave, the image of his wife and children etching itself into his memory. It was memories like these, the mundane, beautiful fragments of life that he fought to preserve each day at the forge. Never let it be said that George Markley didn't provide. Not just horseshoes and nails, but hope. The morning cast a long shadow over the dirt road as George Markley stoked the fires of his forge. Sweat beaded on his brow, the heat of the flames an ever-present companion in his daily toil. The rhythmic clanging of the hammer on anvil was a comforting sound, one that spoke of stability and hard work. But today that familiar cadence was interrupted. George! The voice sliced through the steady din of metalwork like a cold draft through warm embers. It belonged to Nathan Sutherland, a man whose presence in George's shop was as welcome as rust on freshly wrought iron. What can I do for you, Nathan? George asked, setting his hammer down with deliberate slowness that betrayed none of his rising unease. Cut the pleasantries, Nathan snapped, his eyes flitting greedily over the prime location of George's blacksmith shop. I know what you've done. Confusion furrowed George's brow. And what might that be? Stealing, Nathan accused, spitting out the word with venomous satisfaction. From my very store. Thought you could get away with it, did you? The accusation was ludicrous, an absurdity momentarily stunning George into silence. He knew the weight such a claim could carry in Shroud, especially against a black man. Tension coiled in his gut, twisting like hot iron in the grips of tongs. Stealing? That's a serious charge, Nathan, George finally said, his voice steady despite the turmoil churning within. You best have proof to back it up. Proof? Nathan sneered, casting a derisive look around his shop. Your very existence here is theft enough. A man of your standing shouldn't be occupying such a prime piece of shroud. Without thinking, George stepped closer, his large frame towering over Nathan. This is my shop, built with my two hands. I provide a service to this town. My standing has nothing to do with that. Careful now, Nathan warned. The slight waver of his voice betrayed his attempt at intimidation. You forget your place, Markley. Perhaps it is you who forgets yours, Nathan, George replied, his words slow and measured. The air between them crackled with hostility, each man acutely aware of the unspoken threats hanging in the balance. Mark my words, George, Nathan's eyes narrowed, malice pooling in their depths. I will have your shop one way or another. You don't belong here. With those parting words, Nathan turned on his heels and stormed out, leaving a trail of dust and animosity swirling in his wake. After he left, George's hands clenched reflected the ghost of the hammer's handle still imprinted in his palm. Anger vied with concern as the implications of Nathan's visit began to settle in his mind. Everyone knows I'm an honest man, George muttered to himself, trying to quell the rising tide of anxiety. This is just bluster. But deep down, where fear took root in the darkest corners of his heart, he knew the color of his skin made him vulnerable to lies spun by men like Nathan Sutherland. Lord help me, he whispered, his gaze falling on the family porch above the mantel of his forge. The smiling faces of Tilly, Evelyn, and George Jr. staring back at him. They were the reason he had to stand strong. Now more than ever, for their future, he would weather this storm. Yet as the day unfolded, with the relentless Oklahoma heat beating down upon the land, a sense of foreboding clung to George, as tenacious as the smoke that billowed from his forge. Nathan's threat loomed large. A dark cloud threatened to eclipse the bright hopes he held for his family. Under the unforgiving sun, George Markley stood at the center of Shroud's dusty Main Street, the town's eyes upon him. His large, callous hands, darkened by the forge's fire and years of labor, hung resolutely at his side. A crowd had gathered, drawn by the spectacle of confrontation. Nathan Sutherland stood opposite him, a sneer painted across his face, flanked by a man who shared his contempt. "Listen here, Markley," Nathan bellowed, his voice carrying with it the authority he believed his white skin afforded him. "You think you can just take what isn't yours? That you're above the law?" The general store owner's accusation cut through the murmurs of the onlookers like a sieve. George's jaw tightened. "I haven't taken nothing from nobody," he replied, his voice as steady as the anvil in his shop. "That includes you, Nathan. I built my business with these two hands." He raised his hands slightly, palms open, as if presenting his life's work to the jury before him. The townspeople whispered among themselves, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled disdain. George knew which voices carried weight and which would flutter away against the next gust of wind. Their judgment was a fickle thing, but today it was anchored in Nathan's favor. "Your lies are as weak as your spine," Nathan spat. "Maybe you forget where you are, blacksmith. This is my town, and I won't stand for thievery." "Your lies are as weak as your spine," Nathan spat. "Maybe you forget where you are, blacksmith. This is my town, and I won't stand for thievery." George met Nathan's gaze unflinchingly. "No thief here, Sutherland. Only a man standing up for what's right." The clenching of his fist belied his calm demeanor, his heart jackhammering against his ribs like metal on a forge. "Is that so?" Nathan's voice dripped with malice, his followers chuckling behind him. "We'll see how long that defiance lasts." As the standoff came to an end, the crowd disappeared, leaving George under the scrutiny of the midday sun, the heat mirroring the simmering rage within him. But it was more than anger. It was determination not to bow down, to protect his family and their future. He turned and walked away, the weight of the encounter heavy on his shoulders. Night descended on Shroud, draping its darkness over the town. George, pulled away by urgent matters in a neighboring town, left his family home, nestled in the embrace of twilight. Lily, Evelyn, and George Jr. waved goodbye, unaware of the shadows creeping towards them in the night. Hours later, as the moon cast a ghostly glow over the sleepy town, a different kind of shadow approached the Markley residence. Nathan and his band of emboldened men, their hearts filled with poison and minds set on malice. With no defender in sight, they advanced upon the house, a pack of wolves in the guise of men. The door, a barrier of simple wood, was no match for their unwarranted conviction. Inside, the sanctuary of the Markleys was breached, the sanctity of the home violated by the intrusion of hatred and violence. The night air was thick with tension, the silence of the prairie broken by the creaking of the porch, the hushing curses of men driven by the darkest paths of their souls. Unseen by any, the spirits of the land watched in silent lament. The cruelty of humanity once again played out under the indifferent stars, and thus the stage was set for a wrathful spirit to be forged in the crucible of justice, the hammer of vengeance, waiting to be awakened by the blood and tears yet to be spilled. The moon hung low, a silent witness to the unspeakable acts unfolding within the blacksmith's home. Tilly's voice, once filled with laughter and warmth, now rose in ragged sobs that traversed the desolate night. She fought with every ounce of her being, her maternal instinct as fierce as the flames George coaxed from his forge. but her strength was no match for the brutality that Nathan and the men wielded with such vile favor. "Please, not my children," she pleaded between the harrowing blows, her words landing on indifferent ears. Her tormentors replied with mockery and continued their assault, driven by the hate that knew no bounds. Evelyn's small frame shook with terror, her whimpers a haunting melody entwined with the guttural sounds of violence. Little George Jr., his innocence shattered, could only whimper, his eyes wide with confusion and pain. Their agony echoed through the rooms, vibrations of desperation that would soon reverberate through the very souls of their absent protector. George returned under the cloak of darkness, the air thick with the ominous stillness that clawed at his senses. The familiar outline of his home loomed ahead, but something primal within him screamed that all was not as it should be. His boots crunched on the gravel, each step accelerating his heartbeat, dreadful premonition constricting his chest. "George," he called out softly as he pushed open the door, expecting the sleepy murmur of his wife or the gentle rustle of his children stirring in their beds. Only silence greeted him. No, not silence, but the residue of screams that lingered like a foul odor. He adjusted to the dim light, and the sight that met him stole the very breath from his lungs. The world fell away as he staggered forward. His knees threatened to buckle beneath the weight of what lay before him. "God, no!" George's voice was a tortured whisper, a ghost of its usual commanding presence. The room spun around him, a macabre carousel painted in hues of crimson and despair. Lily's broken form sprawled on the floor, her once vibrant eyes void of life. Beside her, Evelyn and George Jr. lay motionless, their small bodies defiled and discarded like rag dolls after a child's capricious play. His hands trembled as he reached out, denial and hope warring within him. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a flicker of life. But their cold skin, the stillness that clung to them, spoke an irrevocable truth. They were gone, taken from him by monsters masquerading as men. Who did this? The question tore from him, a roar in the abyss. Anguish morphed into fury, igniting a fire that no forge could contain. With the hammer of his trade by his side, George stood amidst the ruins of his life, the embers of retribution beginning to glow in his eyes. He had been the foundation upon which they built their lives, the strength that kept them safe. And now he had failed. Now there was nothing left but echoes of their suffering. George Markley vowed to avenge the souls torn from his world. "Forgive me," he whispered to the unhearing dead, the promise of vengeance a bitter taste on his tongue. "I will make them pay." And with that, George stepped into the night, his shadow merging with the darkness as he embarked on a path from which there would be no return. A path stained by the blood of those who invoked the wrath of the hammer of vengeance. The moon hung like an unblinking light over the darkened town of Shroud, its light painting silver streaks on the blacksmith's hammer as George Markley stepped silently through the night. His breath came in ragged gasps, each gasp a plume of mist in the cold air. "Where are you, Nathan?" he muttered under his breath, the name a venomous curse. The blacksmith's shop, once a place of creation, had transformed in his mind into a forge of retribution. A flickering movement at the edge of his vision drew him towards the saloon, its windows glowing with the false warmth of oil lights. The laughter and clinking glasses within were discordant to the howling fury that gripped George's heart. "Oh, come on, Nate. Tell us again how the big man cried," jeered a voice inside, the words fueling George's rage. "Shut your mouth, Tom," another sneered. "You're enjoying this too much." "Enjoying?" Tom chortled. "I'm reveling in it." Without hesitation, George barreled through the doors, his massive form casting a shadow that swallowed the whole room. The patrons fell silent, their jovial nature snuffed out by what they beheld in the blacksmith's grim visage. "George Markley," Nathan began, a tremor of fear in his voice. "Your time has come," George growled, his hammer raised high, his muscles tense, the weight of his weapon familiar in his grip, an extension of his wrath. Wait, this ain't what it looks." "Silence," George roared. The first swing was a thunderclap, metal meeting skull with a sickening crunch. Tom collapsed without a sound, blood pooling beneath his caved-in head. Panic erupted as the men scattered, but George's pursuit was relentless, driven by visions of Tilly's gentle smile and Evelyn's bright laughter. Each strike of the hammer was a requiem for his son's stolen future. Please no, one begged, scrambling backward on hands and knees. But mercy had fled from George's soul, alongside with his family spirits. Did they beg, like you do now? George's voice was ice as his hammer found its mark again, obliterating bone and sinew without remorse. Markley, it was Nathan's idea. I swear, another shriek, but his pleas went unheard. The cacophony of destruction filled George's ear, the pounding of his heart, crackling of bones, the splatter of blood against walls. God have mercy on me. Nathan's final cry echoed as he cowered behind the bar. Mercy? George spat out the word like poison. Tell it to my wife and children. With a final crushing blow, the deed was done. The silence returned to the saloon, broken only by George's labored breathing. He stood amidst the carnage, the hammer slick with the lifeblood of the guilty. But there was no solace, no peace found in vengeance, only the hollow victory of justice extracted. A bitter salve on the gaping wound in his soul. Forgive me, he whispered into the void left by his family's absence. Forgive me for not being there. But forgiveness was a faraway land, and George knew his journey had only begun. The hammer of vengeance was born with fire and blood, and its work would stretch beyond the horizon, into the darkest corners where hate dared to thrive. The moon hung heavy over Shroud, a silent witness to the grim procession that wound its way through the heart of the city. George Markley, his hands bound behind him, stumbled at the center of the mob, his blacksmith's muscles strained against the coarse ropes. The townfolk's face twisted in fury and anger, pushed him forward with angry shoves and sharp words. Murderer, one woman screamed, her voice slicing through the night air like a blade. Devil, spat an old man, his spit landing on George's cheeks, mixing with blood and sweat that coated his skin. Enough, Sheriff Collins commanded, his voice gravelly with sour and duty. The crowd parted as they reached the ancient oak at the edge of town, its sprawling branches casting skeletal shadows on the ground. Please, George implored, his voice hoarse from screams that had long been turned into whispers. I did what any man would have done. Your family's blood weren't even cold before you took up that hammer, someone called from the back, their words laced with accusations and a hint of admiration for the brutality he had wrought. Justice, George muttered to himself, glancing down at his hands, trying to reconcile them with the instruments of vengeance they had become. It was justice, but they pushed him forward, forcing him to his knees at the base of the oak. The sheriff unspooled a length of rope from his shoulder, throwing it over a sturdy branch before securing it around George's torso, binding him to the tree. Any last words, George? The sheriff asked, an edge of regret in his tone. Tell Tilly, tell my babies. George's voice cracked, his eyes clouding with tears that he fought to hold back. That I'm sorry. God may forgive you, but Shroud don't. The sheriff nodded to the man flanking him. A blacksmith apprentice, no more than 16, stepped forward, a railroad spike in his hand. His face was a mask of confusion and conflict, torn between the teachings of his trade and the desires of the mob. Sorry, Mr. Markley, the boy stammered, his eyes refusing to meet those of his former mentor. The first spike pierced flesh with a sickening crunch, pinning George's shoulder with a gnarled bark. A guttural cry escaped his lips, a sound that seemed to pull the very soul from his body. Another blow, another spike, this time through his right shoulders, and the cries melded into the night, indistinguished from the howls of wild creatures. Look at me, boy, George demanded through clenched teeth, fixing his gaze upon the apprentice. Remember this moment when you swing your hammer. Remember what hate brings. Enough talk, growled the voice George recognized as Nathan Sutherland's brother. Finish it. The boy hesitated, but the crowd's fervent chant of justice propelled his arm forward. More spikes, each a betrayal of the craft George had loved, drove into his legs, his abdomens, until the only thing holding him upright was the rough embrace of oak and the iron in his flesh. May God have mercy on all of us, George whispered, his vision blurring as the pain crescendoed into a symphony of agony. His thoughts spiraled, fleeting images of Tilly's smile, Evelyn's laughter, George Jr.'s innocent eyes. Mercy, he said bitterly, a stranger to these parts. Say hi to the devil for us, someone shouted as a final spike was driven home. George's head lolled forward, his breathing coming in ragged gasps. He could feel the life bleeding out of him, the warmth seeping away into the dirt beneath the oak. The mob's voices faded away, their thirst for vengeance quenched by the spectacle of his suffering. Forgive me, he prayed silently to the memories of his loved ones, for I have sinned. With one last shuddering breath, George Markley, the blacksmith of Shroud, slipped from the land of living, the spirit bound to the place of his execution, as if the very spikes that ended his life now tethered him to the world he could no longer touch. The moon hung low, a pale witness to the atrocity beneath the oak. George's spirit hovered, shackled by pain and injustice, over his ravaged body, final expression of sorrowful defiance. The night air held a charged silence, broken only by the distant howl of a solitary coyote. It was in this quietude that a whisper, as if carried by the wind itself, began to form around it. George Markley, it intoned with an ethereal resonance that seemed to vibrate within his very essence. Who calls upon me? George's spectral voice was cautious, a mere wisp in the darkness. An arbiter of balance, the voice replied, a spirit of vengeance. George's translucent form gazed down, taking in the sight of his own mortal shell. He felt a surge of emotion, a tide of rage and greed threatening to drown his reason. Vengeance, he echoed hollowly, the word tasting like fire on his incorporeal tongue. Look upon yourself, blacksmith, Spirit commanded. Your hammer once forged bonds, mended breaks. Now you shall wield it to shatter the chains of hatred. A spectral hammer materialized before him, its head gleaming with an otherworldly light, the handle wrapped in leather that seemed to pulse with power. George reached out, his ghostly fingers closing around it. The context sent a jolt through his being, igniting a fire that had been extinguished with his last breath. Rise, hammer of vengeance, spirits proclaim. Strike down those who mar the world with their malice. Let the guilty know fear as they have sown it. And what of mercy? Of justice, George questioned, feeling the weight of the weapon in his hand. Mercy is for the repentant. Justice is what you will bring. A wash of determination flooded through George's spectral form. He thought of Tilly's gentle strength, Evelyn's bright future, George Jr.'s boundless curiosity, all stolen by the hands of hate. His purpose solidified like steel in a forge. Then I shall be the hammer. I shall be the tempest, George vowed, his voice ringing with newfound resolve. Go forth, hammer of vengeance, the spirit said as it began to fade from perception. Let the wicked cower at your approach. With a thunderous crack, George's spirit exploded into an array of shadows and light, merging with the night. Now unbound, he soared above Shroud, a specter of retribution. He could sense them, the malevolent hearts, the corrupt souls. They would not rest easy in their beds. They would not find peace in their wickedness. As he descended upon the town, his presence caused lanterns to flicker and dogs to whine nervously. The first of the guilty stirred in his sleep, a cold streak breaking across his brow as primal fear took hold. George raised his spectral hammer high, its arc cutting through the stillness of the night. May God have mercy on you, he whispered, and with the force that seemed to shake the very earth, George brought the hammer down, unleashing the fury of the wrong and the wrath of the just. The hammer of vengeance was born.
The Myth of Arachne. Arachne is born in the land of Lydia, the daughter of a humble dyer of wool. She does not come from nobility, she is not taught by priests or temples, but what she has is skill. From a young age, her hands move with quiet certainty. Threads bend to her will, colors settle into patterns no one has ever seen before. Her weaving is not merely decorative, it's alive with detail, balance, and precision. People travel from distant towns just to watch her work. At first, they say her talent must be a gift from the goddess Athena, who is the patron of wisdom and weaving. But over time, as Arachne's reputation grows, people begin to speak differently about her. They say her skill does not resemble a gift. They say it surpasses the goddess herself. Arachne hears the rumors and does not deny them. She says plainly that she owes Athena nothing. She says if the goddess wishes to test her, she is welcome to do so. And Athena hears this. She comes to Arachne not in glory, but disguised as an old woman, leaning heavily on an old weathered staff. Her voice is calm, almost kind.
She warns Arachne to show humility, to respect the gods, to withdraw her challenge. But Arachne refuses. She says skill should stand on its own. She says truth does not bow to authority. And then in that moment, the disguise falls away. Athena reveals herself, radiant and severe, and the true contest now begins. Two looms are set side by side. Athena weaves first. Her tapestry is perfect in structure and form. It shows the gods in all their splendor, majestic, orderly, unchallenged. Mortals who defy them are punished. And the message is clear. Power rules, and rebellion leads only to ruin. And then Arachne weaves. Her hands move swiftly, confidently, without any hesitation. And her tapestry tells a different story. She shows the gods as they truly behave. Zeus disguising himself to deceive mortal women, gods abusing power, betraying trust, breaking the very rules they demand others obey. There is no distortion in this, no exaggeration, only accuracy. When the tapestries are finished, the difference is unmistakable. Athena's work is truly flawless, but Arachne's is flawless as well. But Arachne's tells a truth that Athena cannot tolerate. The goddess inspects the weaving closely, looking for an error, but of course she would find none. And in that moment, Athena understands that she is not lost because of weakness, but because of honesty. Enraged, she tears Arachne's tapestry apart. She strikes the girl, destroying the work that exposed the gods. In despair, Arachne collapses. In some tellings, she attempts to end her life, unable to bear the loss of her art and her dignity. But Athena would stop her, not out of mercy, but to deliver judgment. She transforms Arachne into a spider. Her body shrinks, her limbs twist, her fingers become legs, her loom becomes instinct. Finally, the goddess speaks again, in her true form. Arachne will weave forever, but she will never again be praised. Her work will be hidden in corners and shadows. Her name will be remembered, but her voice will be gone. And so the spider weaves, thread after thread, pattern after pattern, silent, persistent, unacknowledged. The gods retain their authority, and the truth remains, but small, overlooked, and easy to dismiss. And the world moves on. The myth of Asar, death as continuity. Asar does not rule the dead because he died. He rules because he stayed in the underworld. In the Kemetic belief system, death is not an end state. It is a process transition. Asar is not a god who escaped death. He is the god who accepted its role and made it functional. He does not return to rule the living. He does not seek his throne back. He does not even seek to avenge himself. Instead, he becomes the access that allows life to continue without him. When Set murders Asar, it's not just fratricide, it is a disruption. Order is broken, not by chaos alone, but also by the removal of continuity. Aset does not resurrect Asar to reclaim his crown. She restores him enough to anchor the system. Asar now becomes something new, not just a king of Kemet, not a ruler of men, but a ruler of after. And this is not defeat, this is cosmic specialization. He is the first god to stay dead. Many gods die. Asar is the first to understand that staying dead matters. He does not haunt the living. He does not walk the earth in disguise. He does not demand worship through fear. He sits in the duat, presiding over judgment, not as punishment, but as measurement. The heart is weighed, not for sin, but for balance. Death becomes a gate, not a wall. In Asarian beliefs, death is not exile. It is simply relocation. You are not erased. You are not trapped. You are not rewarded for conquest. You are assessed for alignment. Asar does not ask what you owned. He does not care what you conquered. He asks whether you lived your life in harmony with Ma'at. Continuity requires balance, not greatness. And this is why Asar is dangerous to empires. Empires require fear of death to function. Asar removes that leverage. If death is not annihilation, if it is not punishment, if it is not chaos, then rulers lose their greatest threat. Asar makes people harder to control. Now, Horus becomes the future, but his father Asar is the foundation. Horus avenges. Horus fights. Horus rules the living world. Asar does none of that. He assures that when Horus fails, when dynasties fall, when names are forgotten, existence itself does not collapse. Hades processes the dead. Hela houses him. Asar connects him. He is not the god of resurrection fantasies. He is the god of systems that survive loss. Death does not end in the Kemetic thought. It guarantees that life can begin again, without pretending that nothing was lost.
The sun hung low, a smoldering orb cloaked in the dusky robes of twilight. Ra's celestial barge had navigated the horizon's edge, now mooring at the confluence of the eternal river and the sea of stars. His divine form shimmered with the remnants of the day's light as he stepped onto the shores of the Netter's hidden abode. Every night he was locked into a life and death struggle with Apep, the great chaos snake. It taxed his great strength, and even he wondered what the outcomes would be each night. He sought to shore up the security of order, to make safe the world for all. So he would consult with his two greatest advisors, Aset, who was the Netter of magic, and Jehudi, who was the Netter of wisdom. Great Aset, Ra began, his voice resonating with the gravity of his ages. Apet's malice grows ever more cunning. Her latest spawn, a serpent gifted with a darkness so deep it could devour the dawn. It threatens to unravel the tapestry of creation itself. Aset, her eyes reflecting the depth of the cosmos, nodded silently. She was the essence of wisdom, her presence an anchor in the tumultuous sea of chaos that threatened to engulf the world. My lord Ra, she replied, her voice a soothing melody amidst the cacophony of celestial warfare. To combat such guile, we require a defender, a being whose nature is attuned to the serpentine form, one who can slither through shadow as effortlessly as light dances upon the Nile. Ra's gaze met her, the spark of creation flickering in his eyes as he weighed her counsel. Within his vast intellect, the cogs of possibility began to turn, crafting the image of his new guardian from the ethereal threads of thought. Jehudi stood by silent and observant, his countenance calm as the surface of a moonlit pool. This Netter, who was the scribe of the heavens, bore an expression that belied the keen intellect beneath his furrowed brow. "Speak, Jehudi," Ra asked, the urgency of his plight infusing potency into his words. "Your insight has often proved to be invaluable." "Lord of Light," Jehudi said, his voice measured and clear, "if balance is to be restored, we must conceive a being not only aligned with the snake, but also capable of outmatching its primal cunning. You must weave for us a creature that embodies the grace and lethality required to stand as your sentinel." Ra absorbed the wisdom offered by his two trusted advisors, his heart quivering with the anticipation of creation. The thought of fashioning a new life form sparked a wildfire within the heart of his soul, a blaze that was yearning to be shaped into existence. "Then let it be so," Ra declared, the firmament echoing his resolve. The air around them thrummed with potential, waiting for the command that would birth a new legend. "Then let us convene the powers at our disposal," Aset suggested, her gaze piercing the veil of uncertainties. "Together, we shall forge this protector in the crucible of our combined wills, so she may rise as the embodiment of our hope." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his thoughts coalescing into determination. "A new defender would emerge, one whose essence would be as enigmatic as the night sky from which it was born, a champion to stand against the encroaching tide of chaos." In the sanctum of eternity, where time wove its endless dance, Jehudi stood with a presence that seemed to bend the very air with his wisdom.
His eyes, reflective as the moon's surface, turned inward as he contemplated the shape of salvation. The silence hung heavy in the air, pregnant with the weight of impending creation. "Let us look at the natural world," Jehudi offered, breaking the stillness, his voice carrying the timbre of ancient tomes. "The snake coils and strikes with lethal intent, yet there exists one who treads upon the snake with innate sovereignty." All eyes fell upon the wise Neter, their gazes wondering at the thoughts in his head. Aset's lips parted slightly in anticipation, a silent beckoning for the knowledge poised on Jehudi's tongue. "The cat," he pronounced. The word itself seemed to claw its way into reality, sharp and full of primal instinct. Aset's expression shifted, a subtle play of intrigue and respect. "Yes, the cats are poised, and their elegance belies their ferocity. They hunt with a silence that whispers death itself." "Indeed," Ra murmured, his own thoughts mirroring the night sky, vast and dotted with the stars of possibility. The eye of the cat resonated within him, its potential energy crackling against his divine essence. "Call upon Sekhmet," Jehudi spoke, his decree resounding like a gravel upon the pillars of the world. "She shall inscribe the blueprint of this life, the sacred geometry from which our defender will emerge." "Her claws will be the bane of scales," Ra envisioned, feeling the stirring of creation ripple within him, a surge of warmth akin to the first rays of dawn. The room quivered with the invocation of Sekhmet's name, and there she was, appearing as if summoned by sheer force of necessity. Her gaze was as infinite as the library she kept, figure wrapped in robes, scribed with the knowledge of the ages. "Great Sekhmet, weaver of destinies, architect of cosmic order." Ra addressed her with reverence, the air around them charged with expectations. "We seek to cast a new thread into the tapestry of existence, one that is both of the earth and beyond it." "Speak, O Sun King," Sekhmet responded, her voice the whisper of papyrus leaves. "Craft for us a being that encapsulates the essence of the cat, a guardian with eyes to pierce the shadow, a hunter to balance the threat that slithers in the darkness," Ra intoned, each word an ember igniting the path of future events. Sekhmet nodded, her hands poised above the material form that fates were woven. She began the intricate task, each movement deliberate, each symbol imbued with the essence of divine will. As she wrote, the dimensions of the room itself seemed to fold into the narrative that she created. Reality, bending to accommodate the birth of this new legend. "Her spirit will be fierce, untamed by the sands of time," Jehudi whispered, his eyes reflecting the image of his imminent savior. "Her form, lithe and agile, a testament to the dance between life and death." "May her vigilance be unwavering," Aset added, the slightest smile gracing her lips as she herself envisioned the graceful terror that they were about to unleash on their age-old nemesis. "And thus Bastet will come to be," Ra declared. In that moment, all present could feel the shift, a new power stirring, ready to spring forth into the realm of Neters and men. Sekhmet's cosmic pen met the parchment, a mere whisper against its virgin surface. The nib, dark as the void between stars, exuded ink that seemed to pull the very light from the room, swirling itself with potentiality. Her fingers danced with practiced grace, each letter an invocation, each word a layer of muscle and myth. The air crackled in anticipation, heavy with their divine intent. "Let her be swift," Sekhmet murmured, her voice low but clear, reverberating through the chamber like an incantation. "As quick as thought, as silent as the night." Jehudi stood nearby, his gaze fixed on the unfolding creation, his mind already weaving the spell into his spellbook. With each stroke of Sekhmet's pen, he etched the corresponding symbols into his tome, the golden glyphs glowing softly against the ancient papyrus. "Her claws shall be the spears of heaven, sharp enough to cleave shadow from light," Jehudi intoned, his voice harmonizing with the scratching of the pen. "May she never know defeat," Sekhmet continued, her hands steady while her heart thrummed with the weight of what they were about to bring forth. She could feel Bastet's presence taking form, a phantom touch at her senses, a purr resonating within the walls of her soul. "Let her eyes hold the green of light, the emerald promise of dawn," Jehudi added, his own eyes reflecting the nascent veracity he imagined. His fingers paused in their meticulous transcription, allowing himself a moment to marvel at the certainty with which Sekhmet wrought destiny itself. Her fur, Sekhmet whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. Let it simmer with the darkness of the chaos, an endless night where stars go to play. She felt a shiver of power course through her, the paper beneath her hand now alive with the energy of their collective will. Indeed, Jehudi murmured, resuming his careful inscription. She will be both beauty and terror, a force to reckon with the chaos that coils at our doorsteps. His thoughts flitted to the serpent, Apep, and the dread it inspired in the hearts of men and nectars alike. Bastet would be their answer, the counterbalance to entropy's insidious crawl. Let her name resonate through the ages, Sekhmet said, the final stroke of her pen sealing the birth of this new nectar. Bastet, daughter of the sun, shield of Ra, the cat of our creation. Her tale will be told, Jehudi declared, closing his book with a sense of finality. The new spell nestled securely within its pages. And let her hunt begin this very night. The chamber of creation was awash with tension that crackled like static against skin, a place where the very fabric of reality seemed pliable and responsive to the wills of those who stood within its bounds. Atum-Ra, the embodiment of the primal force of existence, hovered at its center. His presence was commanding, an anchor to the swirling energies that emanated from his divine form. Within him surged the power of life itself, the kernel of order amidst the encroaching chaos. Let us begin, Ra intoned, his voice resonating through the chamber as he drew forth a scintillating orb from the core of his being. It pulsed like a heart, the rhythm of creation beating within it. A small sun that blazed with wildfire's ferocity, casting shadows that danced frenetically across the walls. Aset, her eyes reflecting the brilliant glow, stepped forward with a grace that belied the urgency of their purpose. From the breath of Atum-Ra, she began, her voice weaving into the tapestry of light. We call forth the defender, the balance to the darkness we seek to devour. Jehudi, ever the scholar, his gaze alight with wisdom of countless eons, joined in the incantation. From the mind of Sekhmet, we shape the formless into form, he declared, his words an echo of the spirit that now lay dormant within his tone, awaiting for the breath of life. Atum's thoughts focused on the task at hand, the energy within his grasp malleable beneath the weight of their collective intentions. He could feel the pressure of the void pushing back, the unseen menace that lurked just beyond the edges of light. It was a battle fought not with swords, but with the very essence of what they were. The thought of Apep, the never-ending threat, fueled his resolve. This creation must succeed, he urged silently, feeling the weight of destiny on them all. Bind the light to our will, Ra's voice commanded, a fusion of his godly might and mortal determination. Shape it as a hunter, sleek and silent, a shadow against shadows. His words hummed in the air, wrapping around the glowing orb, infusing it with purpose. Let the heart of Atum-Ra ignite the spark, Aset whispered, her outstretched hands challenging the nurturing aspect of her divinity, coaxing the wild energy to coalesce into something more tangible, more alive. Let the wisdom of Jehudi guide the spirit, Atum added, the power within him reaching a crescendo as he felt the first stirrings of consciousness flicker within the nascent form. Let the craftsmanship of Sekhmet give it form, Jehudi uttered, the finality in his tone a testament to the gravity of their creation. Together their voices swirled, a chorus of deific intent that reverberated through the chamber, bending the divine energy to their will. The orb responded, its surface rippling like liquid starlight as it began to stretch, to mold, to take shape under the guidance of these combined nectars. Let this be enough, Atum willed, pouring the last of his energy into the fledgling nectar, willing her into existence. Bastet, the answer to their prayers, the embodiment of celestial might and earthly cunning. She would face Apep this night, and every night thereafter, a guardian against the encroaching dark, born of their hopes and their fears, their power and their wisdom. The chamber of creation thrummed with the power of the ancient deities, a sacred place where stars were born and destinies forged. Within its confines, the essence of divinity itself coalesced, responding to the summoning words of the nectars whose voices wove the fabric of existence. Behold, Jehudi murmured, his eyes reflecting the depth of the universe, the dawn of our protector, the Cat of Ra. The orb of raw celestial fire that had pulsed between them now began to undulate with purpose, the blackness of the void knitting itself as it spun by the loom of fate. Aset's lips curled in a silent prayer, her thoughts twinning with the energy, nurturing it with the tender care of a mother for her own child. From chaos, order, from darkness, light, Aset intoned, her voice a melodic thread in the tapestry of spellcasting. Atum Ra, a titan among them, felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like a cloak woven from the night sky. It was a sensation both familiar and unsettling. Each act of creation, a gamble against the entropy that Apep sought to spread. His heart beat in time with the rhythm of the cosmos, a drum heralding the arrival of a new force in the internal struggle. Let her be steadfast, he whispered to himself, a bulwark against the serpent's wrath. As her incantations reached a crescendo, the shape within the fiery orb crystallized, limbs stretching forth, a sleek body forming from the nebulous energy. Whispers of starlight clung to her form like dew on morning grass, until she stood before them in all her nascent glory. Bastet, the Cat of Ra. Welcome, daughter of the sun. Atum's voice resonated with pride and anticipation. Your hunt begins tonight. Bastet's first shimmered, a tapestry of the night sky rendered upon her graceful frame. It was a black so profound, so saturated with the mysteries of the cosmos, it seemed to swallow light whole, only to release it in subtle glints that mirrored the twinkling of distant stars. Her presence filled the chamber, a tangible assertion of life that none could deny. Your essence is forged of the very heavens, Jehudi observed, his gaze analytical, yet not without warmth, a fitting garb for the guardian of Ma'at. Aset stepped forward, the lines of concern etching her face, softening as she beheld the nectar they had brought. In you, Bastet, we entrust the balance of all things. May your vigilance shield us all from the chaos that seeks to devour our world. May my claws strike true, Bastet responded, her voice a purr of determination. Her form was poised, a dancer waiting for the music to begin, the music of battle, of survival, of an unending war waged beneath the vault of heaven. Atum Ra felt the tension ease from his own form, a quiet satisfaction blooming within him. They had created a champion, a divine sentinel. Yet even as hope flickered within him, the shadow of doubt lingered, a reminder that the morrow was fraught with uncertainty. Tonight you will face the snake, he declared, his tone carrying the gravity of the duty bestowed upon her. And with each dawn we shall rise again, strengthened by your courage and your skill. In the silence that followed, Bastet moved, a creature of grace and deadly intent, her every motion a testament to the purpose for which she had been birthed. The Cat of Ra. The Cat of Ra, a legend-given form, prepared to stalk through the annals of time as protectress of order, her black fur and mantle of the infinite, her will an unbreakable spear against the dark. With the turn of her head, Bastet caught the flickering torchlight in her gaze. It sparkled across the vernet pools of her eyes, igniting them with otherworldly fire that mirrored the fervor of Ra's own celestial flame. The light danced within those emerald depths, casting lustrous shadows over the contours of her face. Your beauty is not just a gift, Ra spoke, but a weapon to beguile and distract your adversaries. Bastet inclined her head, acknowledging the compliment and the hidden wisdom within. She knew her allure was as much a part of her arsenal as the claws sheathed within her paws. Moving with fluid grace, she approached her father, her sleek form reflecting the subtle glow of divinity. Beauty can disarm the strongest foe, she murmured, her voice soft, yet laced with steel. Her thoughts, though veiled from the others around her, spun with strategic precision. Let Apep gaze upon me and falter, she mused. Let the serpent be ensnared by vanity before the strike. Indeed, Atum agreed, watching her with a blend of parental pride and tactical appraisal. But never forget, it is your spirit, fierce and indomitable, that truly defines you. Bastet's tail twitched in response, a subtle gesture of her readiness and resolve. She envisioned the battles ahead of her, her mind weaving through scenarios, each potential movement etched with clarity. In the silent dialogue within herself, she rehearsed the dance of combat, envisioning the serpent's death with each calculated step. Let us hope Apep is as susceptible to beauty as he is to venom, Jehudi injected, his tone carrying the hint of an impish smile. For if charm fails, your teeth and claws shall speak more convincingly. Aset watched, her gaze contemplative, sensing the currents of power converging within Bastet. And speak they will, she said softly, almost a whisper, yet carrying the certainty of prophecy. The chamber seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the clash of titans, this eternal struggle between order and chaos. Bastet, however, stood serene amidst a storm of anticipation. Her beauty, ethereal and commanding, was but the serene surface of a fathomless lake. What lay beneath was a warrior's heart, ready to rise with the fury of a tempest. Then let my presence be both bane and blessing, she vowed, the green of her eyes darkening with purpose. For I am Bastet, the cat of Ra, and my radiance shall be the last light the shadow of Apep beholds before the end. Your adversary slithers in the realm of twilight, cloaked in dread and malice, Atum Ra intoned. Are you prepared to face the spawn of chaos? Bastet's response came not in words, but a subtle shift of her stance. She moved with the grace that belied the lethal purpose of every sinew in her body. The green of her eyes reflected the flame's dance, brimming with the predator's focus. She let her awareness expand, imagining the cold scales of Apep, the mutilating horror that sought to unwind creation itself. Preparation is my nature. My senses are attuned to the whispers of scale against stone, a rustle of dark intent amidst the stillness. Then this will be a testament to your prowess, Jehudi observed, his tone laced with wisdom. Let the hunt begin, and may the balance tip in the favor of Ma'at. As she listened, Bastet's thoughts weaved through the landscape of her nascent memory, recalling the divine incantations that had breathed life into her form. She was a testament to their combined wills, a guardian birth to counter the serpent's menace. Tonight you will chase down fear itself, Aset whispered, a breeze that stirred the embers of Bastet's resolve, and you will emerge as both shield and spear for those who dwell beneath the sun. Let the stars bear witness, Bastet vowed, her words a velvet caress that veiled a core of steel. I am the hunt incarnate, the unseen terror of the night. By dawn, the serpent shall know defeat. With a fluid motion, Bastet rose, every movement a testament to her role as a protector, as avenger. Her eyes narrow, now mirrors of the Vernet deep, reflecting a destiny written in the heavens. Go forth, Bastet, Atum Ra commanded, his voice an ancient rumble that seemed to shake the very earth. Let the darkness tremble at your approach. She prowled toward the threshold of the chamber, where the boundary between the divine and the mortal blurred. There she paused, tail flicking with poised readiness. Her heart was a drumbeat, rhythmic and sure, echoing the pulse of the cosmos. Tonight, she thought, feeling the inevitability of the confrontation coursing through her, I am the balance that tips the scales. Tonight, I am the hunter, and the snake shall be my prey.
Yemoja, mother of waters. Before cities learned to stand, before borders were drawn and defended, before names were carved in the stone and called eternal, there was water. And before water had a name, there was Yemoja. She was not born of the world was shaped around her. From her body flowed rivers, from her breath came tides, from her depth came the rhythm that taught life how to move. The first people did not veer near water by accident. They gathered where she rested. They drank from her hands. They bathed their newborns in her blessing. They buried their dead where the currents would carry the memories away. They knew what water meant. They called her mother, not just because she was gentle, but because she endured. Yemoja carried life the way oceans carry storms, patiently, heavily, without asking for praise.
She fed the fish. She cooled the land. She taught women how to give birth. And she taught men how fragile survival truly was. Water was the first cradle, and their people remembered that at first. At first, they sang to the rivers. They left offerings at the shores, and they spoke her name before crossing dangerous waters, and thanked her when they returned alive. They knew waters were something very sacred. They knew some depths were not meant to be entered. And that balance was not written in the books back then. It was felt. It was carried in the people, on their tongues and in their hearts, but most assuredly in their memories. And that, unfortunately, was the flaw, because memories faded faster than the rivers flow. And over time, these villages, well, they grew into towns. And towns gave way to much larger cities. And it was in the cities that men grew bold, and the cities themselves became that which was worshipped. Stone replaced reverence. Walls replaced gratitude. Water became something to be controlled, not to be honored. They cut into her veins to redirect rivers. They poisoned her depth and called it progress. They took from her endlessly, then blamed her when the waters changed. Then they stopped asking. They stopped listening. They forgot that the same force that nourishes also remembers. And most of all, Umoja felt it. Every child who was lost to greed, every shoreline that was scarred, every offering replaced instead by arrogance, her grief did not arrive suddenly. It accumulated. It settled into her depths like pressure, like memory, like sorrow with nowhere left to go. And when the balance finally broke, when the talking outweighed the giving, Umoja wept. Her tears did not fall gently. They became rivers that no longer obeyed banks. They became rains that did not stop even when begged. They became tides that erased borders drawn by men who believed that land was permanent. Villages vanished first, and then the great arrogant cities. Streets became canals. Temples sank. Names dissolved into silt. Civilizations that believed themselves chosen were swallowed by ceremony. No armies could ever march against her. No wall ever argued successfully with the sea, because water does not negotiate. Water reclaims. And still, Umoja was not cruel. She was precise. To those who honored life, she was protection, a guiding current, a warm ripple in the soft waters, a safe passage to the home that was always there to greet you. To those who exploited, polluted, and dominate, she represented correction, not vengeance, but correction, a gentle teaching of the right order of things. Because water cleanses, and water remembers better than anything else. Water waits longer than any angry child ever could. Every river still remembers where it came from. Every body is still mostly water, and every death still returns to her. She is the womb that gives life. She is the grave that receives it back. And when the world forgets us again, as it always does, when the cities with their arrogance and convenience rise too high, when the arrogance grows heavier than wisdom, when humanity mistakes dominance for balance, Umoja will rise again. Not in rage, not in hatred, but in inevitability. Because water does not hate, it simply remembers. And the thing it remembers most is how to come home. his heart pounding within his chest. We cannot afford to lose this battle, he thought, his mind racing with tactics and strategies. Your pathetic defense is no match for my forces, Apep jeered, her voice dripping with venom. Soon, Atum-Ra will be mine to destroy. Never, Hathor growled, her eyes blazing with divine fury. You underestimate the power of Ra's defenders. You underestimate the power of Ra's protectors. Overconfidence will be your downfall, Apep hissed, her cruel laugh echoing through the underworld. As Set parried and struck against the relentless tide of enemies, he couldn't help but feel a seed of doubt take root in him. Can we truly win this battle? The question nagged at the edges of his mind, threatening to distract him from the life or death struggle unfolding before him. Stand strong, my friends, he shouted, hoping to bolster their spirits as well as his own. We are the chosen defenders of Ra, and we shall not falter. Your words ring true, said Mahis called out in the midst of the fray, his lion head bared in a snarl. We shall drive back these fiends and ensure the safe passage of Atum-Ra through the underworld. Then let us unite our powers and vanquish this darkness, Neith declared, her arrowheads glowing with divine energy. For Ra and for all creation. Together they fought with a newfound strength and determination, knowing that the fate of the world depended on their ability to hold back the encroaching chaos. The clash of steel against scales, the hiss of serpents, and the cries of battle filled the air as Set, Hathor, Neith, Mahis, and Bastet valiantly fought to defend Ra from Apet's relentless forces. Keep them back, Set bellowed, swinging his mighty kopes, cleaving through thick dragon scale with a shower of sparks. His heart pounded like a war drum, threatening to drown out the sounds. Focus your attacks on their weak points, Neith shouted, her eyes scanning for targets. The demonic horde consisted of grotesque creatures, twisted and deformed in their appearance. Their skin was a sickly shade of green, their bodies covered in warts and oozing sores. Horns protruded from their heads, and their eyes glowed with otherworldly light. Pulling back her bowstring, she released a flurry of arrows into the demonic horde. Each found its mark, piercing chinks in their armor and felling numerous enemies. By my claws we'll shred these abominations, Mahis roared, lunging forward, his lion head snapping at the throat of particularly fearsome demons. Blood splattered across his fur, but he felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. Your help is needed here, Bastet, Hathor called out, deflecting a vampire strike with a swift swing of her solar disk. We must protect Ra at all costs. Understood, Bastet replies, her feline grace allowing her to weave between the chaotic melee, her dagger slashing through the ranks of her foes with deadly precision. If only we can stand our ground, Set thought, as he dispatched another enemy. But how long can we hold on? The battle raged on, and despite their combined might, the defenders of Ra began to feel the strain of their desperate struggle. With a sickening crunch, Mahis fell to the ground, overwhelmed by a group of demons. The world seems slow as he falls toward the ground, his lion form withering in pain. He had been caught off guard, his attention diverted by a fierce demon that had lunged at him from behind. Mahis, Neith cried out, her voice sinking at the sight of her companion's defeat. She quickly dispatched her current opponent and raced towards him, arrows raining down on any enemies who dared come near. Mahi, she cried as she reached him, her voice twisted with grief and rage. You will pay for this, you vile creatures. Neith, don't let your emotions cloud your judgment, Set warned. But his words were vain. Neith charged forward, her arrows flying like a vengeful storm, but she failed to notice the demon sneaking up behind her. With a swift, brutal strike, her life was snuffed out, leaving Set to scream her name in anguish. Focus, Set, Hathor urged, tears in her eyes as she fought on. We can mourn later, but right now we must continue our duty. Forgive me, Set muttered, swallowing the lump in his throat. I cannot let their sacrifices be in vain. He redoubled his effort, cutting down foes left and right, but it wasn't enough. In a moment of distraction, a demon's blade found its way through his defenses, impaling him. Set, Bastet cried out, witnessing the Nectar of Chaos fall, his blood staining the underworld soil. Go, protect Ra, Set gasped, his vision darkening as he felt the life slipping away from him. Your sacrifices won't be forgotten, Hathor bowed, her voice trembling with emotion. Bastet, stand with me. We will see this battle through the end. By my father's name we will, Bastet agreed, her daggers flashing in dim light as they continued the fight for Ra's survival. Bast's heart pounded in her chest. The stench of death and decay filled her nostrils as she fought alongside Hathor. The underworld's darkness seemed to swallow them whole, yet they pressed on, guided by their unwavering devotion to Ra and to life itself. Watch your back, Hathor yelled, her powerful voice slicing through the cacophony of battle. A demon lunged at Bastet, its claws outstretched, but she whirled away in time to pierce his throat with her dagger. Thanks, Bastet grunted, wiping sweat from her brow. We cannot fall. We must not fall. Her mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of memories and determination. Enough of this, Hathor roared, her eyes blazing with divine fury. Apet, face us. The ground trembled beneath her feet, and Apet, the monstrous chaos snake, slithered into view, her scales shimmering like coal, her fangs dripping venom so potent it burned the very air. You wish for death, foolish protector? She hissed, her voice cold and merciless. Your reign of terror ends today, monster, Bastet snarled, gripping her daggers tightly. Her pulse raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Your friends have fallen already, Apep taunted, flicking her forked tongue. What hope do you have? More than you can know, Hathor narrowed her eyes, her muscles tensing, ready for the final confrontation. She glanced at Bastet. On my signal. Understood. Now, Hathor shouted, charging forward, her golden light surrounding her like a shield. Bastet followed suit, her agility and speed a lethal combination. Pathetic, Apep spat, lashing out with her massive tail. But Hathor anticipated this move, leaping into the air just in time to avoid the crushing blow. Your hubris will be your downfall, serpent, Hathor cried out as she descended upon Apep, her fists glowing brightly. She struck the snake's head with all her might, sending it reeling backwards. Bastet seized the opportunity. For Set, Neith, Mahis. With a primal scream, she lunged at Apep, her dagger slicing through the air. Flashes of divine fury illuminated the darkness of the underworld as Bastet, called the Cat of Ra, sprang into action. Her fur shimmered with an eerie light, her lithe form dancing gracefully through the cacophony of battle. Apep, the chaos snake, slithered and coiled through the shadows, her black scales almost indiscernible amid the chaos. Ra will not fall to your twisted machinations, foul serpent, Bastet hissed, her emerald eyes narrowing with determination as she leaped toward Apep, her claws extending like gleaming daggers. I am the daughter of Aset, and I stand in defense of my father. Apep's laughter echoed through the underworld, cruel and mocking. Your precious Atum is weak, little cat. Every night my legion grows stronger. It is only a matter of time before we consume the world in darkness. Never, Bastet snarled, lashing out with her claws. They sliced through the air, mere inches from Apet's sinister visage. And as they fought, the underworld crumbled around them, the very fabric of existence, straining through the weight of their titanic struggle. Bastet knew that much hinged on this battle, the fate of Ra, the balance of good and evil, order and creation. I must prevail, she thought fiercely, for my father, for my friends, for every life that hangs in the balance. Your arrogance will be your undoing, Apep, Bastet cried, darting forth to strike again. We shall banish you and your ilk from this realm forevermore. Empty words from a frightened kitten, Apep sneered, lashing out with her powerful coils. You cannot hope to best me, whelp. You are nothing more than a plaything, a momentary distraction. Then I shall make the most of that moment, Bastet roared, her voice echoing with divine power. As she lunged at Apep once more, she could feel the very essence of creation surging through her veins, granting her strength to vanquish this ancient foe. With a final, desperate strike, she drove her claws deep into Apep's flesh, tearing through scales and sinew. The massive snake recoiled in pain and shot, her red blood gushing in sickening spurts. Your time has come to an end, Apep, Hathor declared, standing tall, her divine power radiating like the sun itself. Let your end come swiftly, Chaos Serpent, Bastet whispered, her heart pounding in her chest as she stared down at the wounded snake. Hathor raises her sword, and in one swift motion, she severed the Chaos Snake's head from its body. No, Apet shrieked, her monstrous form beginning to disintegrate into the darkness of the underworld. "By our fallen comrades, we have triumphed," Bastet whispered, glancing at the remains of their enemies scattered on the battlefield. "We did it. We protected Ra. Let us return to the Solar Bark, sister," Hathor said softly, her gaze heavy with sorrow for the loss of their friends. "Yes," Bastet replied, her voice thick with emotion. Hand in hand, they made their way back to the vessel, knowing that the newborn day was saved and the world had been spared from Apet's destruction. As the two approached the Solar Bark, their eyes burned with the fury of battle and the weight of loss. The vessel, now glowing softly in the faint light of the underworld, seemed to beckon them home. "Is it truly over?" Bastet asked quietly, her voice echoing in the vast caverns around them. "Only for today," Hathor replied, her voice steady in the horizon. "Tomorrow we face Apet's legions again. Then we must make the most of this victory," Bastet declared, determination flaring within her. She tightened her grip on Hathor's hand, drawing strength from their unbreakable bond. "Indeed," Hathor nodded, her golden eyes shimmering with purpose. "We shall honor our fallen comrades and ensure their sacrifices were not in vain." They boarded the Solar Bark, feeling the warmth of Ra's presence envelop them like a comforting embrace. As the vessel began its journey towards the light, Bastet allowed herself a moment of reflection, pondering the events that had transpired. Set, Neith, Mahis, your bravery will never be forgotten. "Hey," Hathor whispered, breaking into her train of thoughts. "You did well today. They would all be very proud." "Thank you, sister," Bastet murmured, her words barely audible over the hum of the Solar Bark's engines. "I only wish we could have saved them too. Sometimes, no matter how hard we fight, we can't escape the darkness fully," Hathor said softly, her gaze locked into the distant glow of the living world. "But through our actions, we can bring light back to the world." "True," Bastet mused, watching the shadows retreat before the Solar Bark's light. "And with each new day, we're given the chance to make things right." "Indeed," Hathor smiled. "Now come, let us prepare for our return to the realm of the living. Our duty is far from over." Her determination renewed by Hathor's words. Together, they set about their task, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the world above. Please write a title and everything for the video, The Myth of Hades, and include thumbnail text, please. From the same places, the money in the bank at the both same places. Akasha of Kemet, the queen who did not die. Now this story takes place in ancient Kemet, in an age before history had hardened to dates. An age where empires were still learning what they were, learning their power. Kemet was rising, pulling itself away from the older, darker traditions, blood rites, ancestral consumption, magic fed by death rather than memory. At the heart of this transformation stood a woman from beyond its borders, Akasha. She was not born of Kemet. She came from the lands of Sumer, Mesopotamia, where the first cities were built, where queens were not ornaments but institutions themselves. When she was wed to Enkill, the king of Kemet, the marriage was political, but the power she brought was real. Akasha did not rule from behind the throne. She was the throne's spine. Known as the queen of beauty and order, Akasha was spoken of as a devastating beauty, not a fragile beauty, not a decorative beauty, but a regal beauty. Her skin was dark and luminous, kissed by the sun of the south. Her body bore the symmetry of deliberate design. Her hair was worn in intricate braids, woven with gold, beads, and ritual markings, each braid a language of status, lineage, and intent. When she walked, people noticed. When she spoke, people listened. And when she ruled, things changed. Under Akasha and Enkill, Kemet began to cleanse itself. Cannibalism was outlawed. Blood sorcery was dismantled. The old shadow priesthoods were dragged into the light. And civilization mixed enemies along its way.
enter the witch sisters. Among those enemies were two ancient sisters, Maharet and Makari. Now their mother had been a very powerful witch, one of the old order, and when she died, the sisters followed their ancestral rites, preparing to consume her body, her brain, her flesh, in order to absorb her knowledge and power. To them, this was sacred. This was lineage. To Akasha, this was barbarism, and this was a crime. They were arrested, not gently, and they were beaten, dragged before the queen, and Akasha did not show them mercy. She humiliated them publicly. She had them punished, scarred, and cast down, not as witches, but simply as criminals themselves. Now, this was not cruelty. This was policy, and the sisters never forgave her for that. The summoning of Amil. Now, Maharet and Makari retreated into exile, into the old places where these new laws did not reach them. And there, in rage and humiliation, they summoned Amil. Not a god, not a demon in the Christian sense, a blood spirit, ancient, feral, drawn to death, thriving in the cracks between life and decay. They did not ask Amil to kill Akasha. They asked him to torment her, to haunt her days, to fracture her sleep, to make her doubt her own mind. And Amil agreed. And the harassment began. Akasha began to suffer. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Voices whispered without mouths. Objects shifted. Blood dreams plagued her sleep. And she knew what this was. An attempt at possession.
Oh, where was it at?
For her
By the door?
soul. And
By the
she
door? The
resisted.
front door?
She resisted the
Man, that's the most
spirit with
dangerous
her will
route.
alone, refusing to allow it to claim her. But Amil was ancient, powerful, and patient. And so he lingered. He fed on his proximity to
put
her.
it in the mailbox.
The waiting was his gift.
Well, I
And
would
then
hope
came
they were out
the
though.
assassination. Again, civilization makes many enemies.
Talking to me?
And she had her share. And one day came the blades. An assassination attempt, political, coordinated, inevitable. Enkill was struck first. Akasha was then stabbed. As her blood spilled onto the stone, her body began to fail, and thus her soul rose. And that is the moment that everything broke. As Akasha crossed the threshold of death, Amil followed her, and this spirit latched onto her departing soul, not out of love, not
Your
out of
piano body,
design,
yeah.
but out of instinct, that of a predator. And when Akasha's soul tried to leave her body, Amil pulled it back in. They fell together, the spirit and the queen, back into the flesh. Her heart restarted.
Yeah, they were like
Her
it was
wounds
snow
sealed.
and ice, but I'm
Her
like,
blood
remember, I used to shovel
changed.
that shit, man.
And
so I don't
Akasha
know where there could have been
awoke.
ice at. I'm being really
Not
honest.
alive, not dead, but bound.
Yeah, and they still fell.
The
Yeah.
first vampire queen. She arose as something new. Her senses shattered their limits. Her hunger was no longer
I
her
mean,
own.
it
Her
had smelled like
blood
the day prior
burned
or
with
something
thorn
like that.
will.
Isn't that range?
A meal
But like I
was
said,
now
I
fused to
shoveled
her,
our walk all the
feeding
time.
through her,
I never left snow
whispering
in our walk.
through instinct, bound permanently for all time.
I wouldn't worry about it. It's a
Akasha
very
had not
unlikely
chosen
thing, and you
immortality.
could just as easily go to
She had
someplace
simply
else
been
spot and
denied death.
slip. You know, I mean, it's got to be different now. 'cause
The
most people
turning
got cameras,
of Enkill.
which we should just, get a ring camera. and put it in
Enkill
front.
lay there dying,
so we can have recordings.
and Akasha
shit. That's the best
refused to
defense we
lose
ever
him.
have.
So she fed him her blood. And then Enkill died. And then horrifically, he rose. And in that moment, vampirism was born. Not from ambition,
I didn't
but
hear
from
people
love
always have
and
my
refusal
headphones
to
on.
endure
You mean the
loss.
dog didn't react
The
to
judgment on the witches. Akasha and Enkill hunted the sisters, sparing no expense. Maharet was found, and she was spared, but mutilated. Her eyes were destroyed, and she was cast into an endless exile. Makari was driven mad, sent wandering,
carrying the seed of legacy in her, her survival ensuring the truth would never fully die. The old magic was not destroyed, but it was scattered. The martyrdom. Akasha did not seek godhood. She paid for reform with her eternity. She paid for civilization itself with her soul. She became the mother of monsters against her will, bound forever to a parasite born of ancient cruelty and modern resistance. She was not evil by origin. She is what happens when a woman stands between the old world and the future, and the future demands blood. The myth of Anansi and death. Now, this story comes from the Akan peoples of West Africa, where stories are not merely entertainment, but inheritance, passed from voice to voice, memory to memory, as carefully as names and bloodlines. Now, in this story, it speaks of the beginning, when the world was still simple and its rules had not yet hardened. And there was Anansi, the trickster, who was gifted by knowing many things. He knew how to listen when others spoke too much. He knew how to wait when others rushed forward blindly. He knew how to take a small advantage and turn it into a lasting gain. And this is why he survived. Anansi was not the strongest. He was not the bravest. He did not rule through force or command, but he was clever. And in a world shaped by consequence, cleverness carried weight. He was known by many other names, most notably the Spider. And oftentimes he appeared as a spider, other times as a man, often both at once. He moves between forms as easily as thought between ideas, because he represents the mind itself at work. He is the keeper of stories, the bringer of knowledge, the reminder that intelligence is a form of power. And through Anansi, wisdom is passed not through strength, but through attention. He was a trickster, but never a fool, a survivor, not a coward. Where others confront obstacles directly, Anansi goes around them. While others accept fate, Anansi tests it,
when I was
gently,
during
patiently,
I was making
with curiosity sharpened into strategy. And so, in a world that listens to the clever, Anansi endures. The approach of death. Death did not arrive suddenly. It never does. Among the Akan, death is not a shout in the dark, but a quiet shift in the rhythm of living. It moves softly, announced not by noise, but by patterns, by things going slightly out of step. It appeared in the smallest ways, a stiffness in the joints that did not leave with rest, a wariness that lingered longer than it once had, a pause in the breath where there had never been one before. Time itself seemed to change. Days no longer stretched forward with the same generosity. The future felt closer, heavier, as if it had begun to lean inward. Death had entered the space, not as an intruder, but as a presence. And Anansi noticed, as he always did. He watched the signs without fear. He felt the shift without panic. Where others would have prayed or pleaded, Anansi observed. He was measured, he was calculated. Because to Anansi, this too looked like the problem with a shape. And if a thing had a shape, it could be understood. And if it could be understood, Anansi believed it could be solved. The trap. Anansi prepared carefully, not in haste and not in fear. He wove a web unlike any he had made before, not for insects, not for prey, but for possibility. Each strand was laid out with intention, measured against its silent self. Each knot was reinforced, not by strength, but with patience. This was not a hunter's web. It was a question cast into the shape of a trap. The web shivered faintly in the light, not because it was visible, but because it disturbed something deeper. It caught light the way that thought catches doubt, invisible to all but the most attentive eye. And it waited, already complete, already listening. When death came, it came as it always does, silent, patient, unquestioned. No warning preceded it, no force accompanied it. Death stepped forward, unaware that this space had already been altered, that the pattern it relied on had been interpreted. And then the web closed. Not violently, not suddenly. It gathered death in the way that a pause gathers breath. And for the first time, death was held. Not wounded, not threatened, just stopped. And the world hesitated. Breath lingered where it should have passed. Moments stretched thin, as if time itself were waiting for instruction. The final step, the one that always came, failed to arrive. The universe did not break, it paused. And Anansi watched, feeling the stillness ripple outward to the web, watching consequence delay itself. And Anansi smiled. The world without death. At first, the change is subtle. No one notices immediately. A wound closes too slowly. An old man lingers longer than his strength allows. A breath is taken that should have been a last, but yet it isn't. Life continues, but it does not release. The sick do not pass. They remain, suspended between pain and rest. The wounded do not fall quiet. They endure. Grief is delayed, stretched thin, unable to complete itself. Endings hesitate, and nature begins to feel it. Leaves wither but do not fall. Fruit ripens and rots without being cleared away. Rivers swell without emptying fully, pressing against the banks as if unsure where they are allowed to go. The rhythm falters. Predators hunt, but the balance does not reset. Fields grow crowded. The living accumulate space to make room for the next cycle. Life without death becomes heavy, and still the pause continues. Time does not stop, it thickens. Days blur together, moments refuse to separate cleanly. Stories stretch past their proper endings, turning into noise instead of meaning. Even the sky feels different. The stars still burn, but something about the light feels stalled, as though the long arc of becoming and collapsing has been interrupted. Not extinguished, just waiting. Because even stars in their own time are meant to end. The universe is built on release, and now release has been delayed. And at the center of it all, death remains held. Not struggling, not protesting, simply waiting. And Anansi watches the world bend under the weight of his own continuation. What he has stopped is not cruelty, it is completion. And the longer it is delayed, the more the world begins to strain, not toward chaos, but towards exhaustion. Death waits. Death does not struggle against the web. It does not pull, it does not thrash, it does not demand release. Death simply waits, because death has never needed urgency. From the cosmic view, death understands something that the living have forgotten, that everything that begins is already leaning towards its end. Mountains know this, rivers know this, stars know this, burning for ages only to release themselves back into the darkness one day. Death is not surprised by the delay. Delay is temporary. Duration is not. If death could be said to have a form, it is not sharp or monstrous. It would not be adorned with terror. It would be still. It will be balanced. It will be complete in itself. Beautiful not because of its kind, beautiful because it is final. Terrible not because it is cruel, but because it does not change its mind. Those who sense death do not see a figure. They feel a setting, a certainty, a quiet understanding that nothing here is meant to be held forever. This is what death looks like. And so it waits within Anansi's web, unbothered, untouched by impatience. It does not fear cleverness because cleverness depends on time, and time belongs to death. The web may hold it, but time is already working on the web, and death knows this as well. Anansi's first doubt. At first, Anansi feels satisfaction. The web holds, death remains still, and the world continues. But cleverness is a habit of watching, and Anansi does not stop watching. He notices small things. A woman who should have wept but cannot because the one she waits for has not left. A hunter whose wound never closes enough to heal, yet never opens enough to end. Voices that linger too long in rooms that should have been emptied. Life is still present, but it is crowded. Anansi feels it in the air, The world has grown heavier, thicker, as though it's holding too much breath at once. Movements continue, but without effort. Effort accumulates